even eliminate it. In about 3 weeks, you'll discover what it's like to feel better. Go to reliefactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF and save on your first order. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. States.
French political parties choosing their candidates for Sunday's runoff elections, with the far-right National Rally Party hoping to form the next government.
French elections have rarely been so unpredictable or significant. For the first time in hundreds of constituencies, 3 rival candidates have managed to get through to the second round of voting on Sunday. But parties on the centre and left of French politics are trying to cut deals to make sure they only put one candidate forward to challenge the surging National Rally, a populist anti-immigrant party. There are indications that such deal-making might work, denying the National Rally a crushing victory that would enable it to form a new government.
The BBC's Andrew Harding. Australian police say a 14-year-old boy dressed in military fatigues arrested after allegedly stabbing a 22-year-old student in the neck at the University of Sydney. The victim hospitalized in stable condition. News and analysis, townhall.com. 5 members of one family lost in a New York plane crash.
The Federal Aviation Administration says the single-engine plane crashed Sunday afternoon in a wooded area. New York State Police say the wreckage of the plane and the remains of the 5 victims were found Sunday night in the town of Masonville. Drones, all-terrain vehicles, and helicopters searched the crash site about 125 miles northwest of New York City. Police say the family was returning to Georgia after attending a tournament in Cooperstown, the home of the Baseball Hall of Fame. The FAA and the National Transportation Safety Board are investigating the crash. I'm Mike Hempel.
Prosecutors plan to retry Karen Reed on charges she killed her Boston police officer boyfriend by hitting him with her SUV and then leaving him to die in a blinding snowstorm. Jurors had failed to reach a verdict, and the judge declared a mistrial. More on these stories at townhall.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. The heat returns quickly on Tuesday. Our low 67, not too bad in the morning, but mostly sunny and a high of 94. Winds about 10 to 15 miles an hour out of the south. So it's going to heat up quickly with lots of sunshine Tuesday. Wednesday, a high of 94. We have a chance for a few showers or storms in the morning. They'll be weakening as they move in from the northwest. Then it heats up, that high of 94. And we'll watch for a chance of a strong to possibly severe storm in the late afternoon and evening. A little better chances just south of St. Louis, but we got to watch that for Wednesday evening. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Senior Memorial. With the average funeral bill being over $9,000, are your loved ones prepared? Call 314-866-8886 or memorialplans.com. Senior Memorial Heritage Protection.
Replacing your roof is always a big deal and a big decision. That's why I want you to call my friends, the folks that we've trusted with our homestead, Eureka Contracting and Roofing. 636-938-ROOF. That's 636-938-ROOF. They are veteran-owned, over 30 years of experience in the construction and insurance industry. They'll replace 100% of your roof, siding, fascia, and gutters. They'll come to you with a personal consultation. Give them a call anytime that Mother Nature strikes you. 636-938-ROOF. Available 24/7 at eurekacontracting.com. That's eurekacontracting.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Yes, I listen on my phone.
Download the News Talk STL app.
News Talk STL.
Streaming live on the mobile app.
It is awesome.
And listen anytime.
Love the News Talk STL app.
Anywhere.
News Rundown.
Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024. I'm Dave Anthony. The Supreme Court has ruled in the Trump immunity case. It makes it tougher for the former president's prosecutors.
Every criminal case that Trump is facing, including the New York case, has grounds to go back and review prior rulings and decisions regarding immunity, because every one of the cases deals with or originates with acts of President Trump while he was in office.
I'm Jessica Rosenthal. Will he stay or will he go? Most Democrats defend the president after last week's debate and say the president is not going anywhere.
Removing him without him stepping aside is pretty much impossible at this point.
We speak with Fox News Sunday anchor Shannon Bream.
And I'm Will Kane, and I've got the final word on the Fox News Rundown.
The Supreme Court has made Democrats angry yet again with the Trump immunity ruling.
This nation was founded on the principle that there are no kings in America.
President Biden says the decision that former presidents have absolute immunity for official acts taken while in office undermines the rule of law.
There are virtually no limits on what a president can do. This is a fundamentally new principle, and it's a dangerous precedent because the power of the office will no longer be constrained by the law, even including the Supreme Court of the United States.
Though the justice's 6-3 decision does not give any immunity to unofficial acts, the Senate's Democratic leader Chuck Schumer calls it a sad day for America, but former President Trump calls the ruling a big win for our Constitution and democracy. His lawyer, Alina Habba, tells Fox,
"It will, in my opinion, slow down Jack Smith's persecution and selective prosecution."
He's the special counsel whose federal 2020 election interference criminal case against the former president has been delayed by the Trump immunity appeal.
This was a sweeping victory, I think, for Donald Trump, and I think that it's very correct.
Andrew Cherkasky is a criminal defense lawyer and former federal prosecutor.
They didn't give total immunity. There is now essentially immunity for any constitutionally driven executive action, blanket immunity. For official acts, there is a presumption of immunity. And so that means that anything that any prosecutor who would want to infringe on something that is arguably an official act, that's going to have to go through a deep fact-finding mission, and the burden rests on the government, on the prosecutors, to prove that it was outside of the outer perimeter of the presidency. The Supreme Court did say no immunity for private acts or unofficial acts,
Right.
and that's significant here.
One of the things that I find interesting is in the decision that when they're determining if the president has immunity for certain actions, they can't go into motive.
That's right.
What does that mean?
They can't try to guess about whether the president was thinking in his mind, whether they were official or unofficial acts, whether it was more for a personal motivation or for a motivation to execute something part of the executive function. So that guesswork or those kind of industrious opposing prosecutors aren't going to be allowed to do that. They also said, though, that prosecutors are not going to be allowed to look into the private writings or the private discussions with advisors. That can't be used as evidence. And so in a case that deals with a specific intent crime, as it does in Donald Trump's case, where they have to prove the state of mind of the defendant, of Donald Trump, I think it's going to be incredibly hard for them to produce the evidence to be able to do that, given the Supreme Court's limitations.
You know, when we watch legal shows, when we deal with legal cases and read about them, everyone always talks about motive.
Right.
So if you can't use motive or try to establish motive, does that make it how do you do it? How do they proceed with a prosecution?
Well, some crimes, motive is an element, and some crimes it's not. It's the difference between a general intent versus a specific intent crime.
Okay.
For a general intent crime, which includes things like murder or assault, some more basic kind of physical crimes, it doesn't matter what the criminal defendant was thinking. And so motive doesn't really have the same importance to it. Now, when you look at crimes that are more like what we're dealing with here, a specific intent to defraud, or a specific intent to interfere with, a specific intent to
overturn the election results, which is he's accused of trying to do.
Right. Now we have to look at less about motive and more about what the specific intent was. Again, I think that becomes very difficult for Jack Smith. He's going back to the drawing board now, no doubt, looking at what he can salvage from his prior indictment. The prior indictment had 4 counts. Two of those, last week's decision in Fisher, which dealt with the obstruction of a government function, which was essentially overturned and determined to be outside the scope. Those are in peril now. So that's two of the four that were in peril as of last week. Now there are two essentially remaining. They deal with a wide range of different acts of President Trump, including his interactions with the Department of Justice. The Supreme Court says that was official. Those are out. Says his interactions with the vice president. Those are now dubious. Those are going to be sent down to the district court. And then his interactions with the states and electors.
The fake electors scheme that they talk about,
exactly.
Right?
That still potentially falls within the ambit of the Presidential Official Act, has to go back down to the district court for more analysis. All of that, I think, subject to a new round of appeals if the district court were to rule in favor of Donald Trump. And then there's the other cases. We haven't talked about that. The Florida case, the Georgia case, even the New York criminal case.
Let's get back to that. We'll get to those in a minute. I want to get back to the issue of the district judge, Tanya Chutkan now. She's got to go through this and try to determine what official and unofficial is.
Now she has to review this case in light of the Supreme Court's ruling, go through each specific act. And before she even does that, Jack Smith has to decide how he's going to proceed with the current indictment. All of it's going to take a lot of litigation. The judge has been favorable to the prosecution, but the Supreme Court really now puts a heavy burden on the prosecution, one that wasn't there before, with a substantial amount of limitations on the amount of evidence and the types of evidence they can use to establish immunity doesn't apply.
All right, let's get into some of the reaction that is different than yours, okay? David Becker is the executive director of the nonprofit Center for Election Innovation and Research. He calls the ruling incredibly broad, deeply disturbing. Almost anything a president does with the executive branch is characterized as an official act, and it could be a roadmap for someone seeking to stay in power. What do you think?
I find it to be generally disingenuous because we've been, as a country, nearly 250 years with presidents who have acted with basically the assumption of immunity. And we've never seen a prosecution of a former president. That doesn't mean that former presidents weren't walking a tightrope or even doing things that seem to be illegal if you really look at it from a nuts and bolts perspective.
But Democrats have said, look, in all that time, we've never had a president try to come up with a faked elector scheme and lead, as they claim, an insurrection on the Capitol, January 6, 2021. They say that's never happened before. So that's led to this never happening before.
I mean, we've had military operations that have resulted in deaths that were kind of outside the scope of authority, potentially. That happened in many administrations over the years. There's been different dealings. There's been different financial deals. There's many examples that you can go back through the history of the country, not even the last 50 or 60 years. And there's plenty of those examples where presidential immunity was essentially just kind of presumed as time has gone by.
And could have been challenged, perhaps.
And could have been, but 50 years ago, there was also a challenge to Nixon, Fitzgerald v. Nixon, where there was a direct challenge to the idea of civil liability on a president. And the Supreme Court said that there was no civil liability or that there was some degree of civil immunity that was extended to the president. So that's 50 years ago that was in place. And it's rarely the case where civil immunity would be greater than criminal immunity. So I see this, relatively speaking, as the status quo, as kind of what's been conceptualized in the Constitution and what we've lived by in our country.
Other reaction from senators who are Democrats is more personal to the court. The Senate's Majority Leader Chuck Schumer calls it a disgraceful decision by the MAGA Supreme Court, undermining the court's credibility and political influence trumps all, basically pun intended, in courts today. Richard Blumenthal, senator from Connecticut, my stomach turns with fear and anger. The court is out of control, and the conservative majority will be rightly perceived as extreme and nakedly partisan hacks, politicians in robes.
I don't know where that comes from, other than a purely political talking point, hoping to get the electorate to believe that talking point. The court is undoubtedly conservative leaning in its legal principles at the moment, but a conservative leaning court in their principles typically conceptualizes the idea that they are leaning back on original intent or a more specific reading of the Constitution based on the words that are there, as opposed to a social construct or a social interpretation of the Constitution, which I think it further deviates from the Constitution. They're not deviating. They're not creating new rules. They're relying on precedent.
So this clearly delays the 2020 election federal case past the 2024 election, right?
That's right.
Yeah. What does this mean for the Georgia election interference case? That's in state court?
Every criminal case that Trump is facing, including the New York case, has grounds to go back and review prior rulings and decisions regarding immunity, because every one of the cases deals with or originates with acts of President Trump while he was in office. And so the Georgia case, where they refused to remove it to federal court and where they have refused essentially to deal with the immunity issue, I think that this opens that back up wide. There are many of the acts that are in the indictment that are clearly within this new ambit of what is protected generally or presumably protected by presidential immunity. And so that's all going to have to be reanalyzed. The Florida case as well.
This is a classified document case.
This is a classified document case.
Jack Smith, same special counsel. But see, this one I find interesting because this relates to the former president and the way he handled classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago estate after leaving office.
Kind of, because the charges in that case actually start on the day that he left office. The idea being that he had documents that he could have had as a president and then maintained them after he left office.
So that could be an official act?
It could be an official act, absolutely. The idea of the management and maintenance of records and the way in which he moved them. One of the big issues in the Florida documents case is, when did the crime occur? Did it occur the second he stepped out of office, the second Biden was sworn in? Did he do it while he was in office and was intending to have these documents?
Isn't there an obstruction-related charge, which would be way past him leaving office? Because if he doesn't turn over the documents, that's long after he left office.
These are all good questions, but they're all related back to the time that he was in office. And so that, if they can separate that as being purely unrelated.
So he can appeal now on that.
Absolutely.
Okay. New York, you brought up New York.
Yeah.
He's already been convicted in New York. He has sentencing this month.
That's right, on the 11th. And so I think that there's a window open. If they see a strategic reason to do this, his team could bring back a argument that he's immune. Judge Merchant previously had refused essentially to make a ruling on immunity, saying that motion was essentially untimely or had already been litigated to some extent. So the reason I see that as an issue is because even though the Stormy Daniels stuff, even though the payoff of the non-disclosure agreement all occurred prior to his presidency, the charges in that case all stem from after the time that he was in office.
Right, but if he's signing checks, that's not an official act. If he's signing personal checks, how is that an official act?
Well, I think that's something that's going to have to be delved into, perhaps even stalling the actual sentencing hearing. I think that's more of an outlier, but it's the way in which I think the defense, Donald Trump's defense team, is going to be looking at all of this.
So these legal cases could go on for a long time.
Oh, absolutely.
Andrew Cherkasky, he is a criminal defense attorney, former federal prosecutor. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1 and newstalkstl.com.
Sneezing, coughing, stuffy nose, runny nose, postnasal drip, interrupted sleeping. I was groggy at the end of the day.
Allergies and sinus congestion were making Jana miserable. Then a friend recommended Navage. Navage provides immediate drug-free congestion relief, flushing your nasal passages with refreshing saline and sucking out mucus, germs, and other airborne irritants. Navage helps you breathe easier, sleep better, and feel your best right away.
Navage gave me instant relief. I didn't have to wait 30 minutes. I didn't have to wait an hour, 90 minutes. I didn't have to wait a minute. I ran the rinse and I felt better.
Stop suffering from congestion and start breathing and feeling your best again with Navage. Navage.
I've had people ask me how I find relief, and I tell them Navage immediately. This thing is amazing.
Navage is available at Navage.com or at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, and Rite Aid.
It's common knowledge that after age 30, our metabolism changes. We have less energy and gain weight easier. There's a way to feel better, not in years or months, but sometimes in just days.
I'm Chuck Norris. I tried everything. Working with a team of health experts, we came up with Morning Kick. Morning Kick is a revolutionary new formula that combines all my favorite supplements into one daily drink.
Morning Kick has probiotics to help you lose weight, prebiotics for digestion, superfoods for muscles and joints, and powerful anti-aging supplements. It'll help you feel youthful, energized, and helps manage stress.
I look and feel better than I have in years.
Go to roundhouseprovisions.com, use code CORE, or text CORE to 511-511 and claim 40% off. Roundhouseprovisions.com, code CORE.
Every purchase comes with our 90-day money-back guarantee. You could be feeling these changes within just a couple of days.
Text CORE to 511-511.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Message and data rates may apply. Paid for by
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
I have Dr. James Scholes from the Show Me Institute on the effects of a 4-day school week. And at 5:20, Dr. Randy Tobler on Biden's cognitive decline.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Caring for a loved one is stressful. It's an emotional time, and we want our loved ones to get the quality of care they deserve. But the cost of long-term care is expensive. In the St. Louis area, it could be $60,000, $70,000, or even over $100,000. Can your savings handle this added expense? Fortunately, News Talk STL listeners have an expert right here. Financial strategist Chris Cooper of Serenity Wealth Management shows families tax-efficient strategies to fund care needs. Whether planning in advance, have health concerns, or living in a care community today, solutions exist to fund the quality of care you deserve.
Hi, I'm Chris Cooper, and I'd love to send you a free copy of my new book. You'll learn about strategies to empower you and your family, protect your savings, and make sure your loved ones get the quality of care they deserve.
Visit SerenityLTC.com. That's SerenityLTC.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors.
Hey, it's Columbo for Capriotti's Sandwich Shop. Capriotti's is famous for setting themselves apart due to their dedication to superior quality and ingredients like slow-roasted, hand-pulled whole turkey and American Wagyu straight from Snake River Farms. That dedication to superior quality is evident from the very first bite into a Capriotti sandwich. Visit Capriotti's Sandwich Shop 7 days a week at the corner of Manchester and McKnight in Rock Hill, and get more info, including how to impress at your next event with their great catering at capriottis.com.
Connor Roofing. You can count on Connor. Congratulations to the awesome team at Connor Roofing for earning the 2024 National Best of the Best Award for Customer Satisfaction. Connor Roofing has now won back-to-back honors because they do outstanding work in all types of roofing, storm damage restoration, siding, gutters, both residential and commercial. We chose Connor Roofing without telling the owners, Rob and Kathy Connor. Their customer reviews are some of the best in the country. Please read them. Visit ConnorRoofing.com and request an estimate. Connor Roofing. You can count on Connor.
St. Louis's #1 choice for conservative talk. This is News Talk STL. News, analysis, and opinion from the voices you know and trust. Mike Ferguson, Tim Jones, Dan Bongino, Tony Colombo, Vic Porcelli, Katie Fitzpatrick, Chris Arce, Ken Williams, Larry Connors, Gabe Pfeiffer, Joe Pags, Randy Tobler, Ben Shapiro. #1 for the most live and local conservative talk. 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Still 100% George Soros free.
Because everything's ready to go in the app. Just say,
Alexa, play news from Fox. In Fox News.
It's the latest when you need it on demand from Fox News and Amazon Alexa. Look at what's happening from the Fox News Rundown.
Good morning. It's Tuesday, July 2nd. This is the Fox News Rundown. I'm Sue Gosman. President Biden weighs in after the Supreme Court issues a much-awaited decision on presidential immunity and Donald Trump's election interference case.
President Biden said he was disappointed in the decision by the High Court freeing a president from prosecution for official acts deemed unlawful. Private acts still can be prosecuted, but the president says being shielded by the Oval Office should not be allowed.
Because the power of the office will no longer be constrained by the law. even including the Supreme Court of the United States.
Former President Trump took to his Truth Social platform to declare the ruling a big win for the Constitution and democracy. Lower courts must now decide if and how the former president's criminal cases move forward. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
House Speaker Mike Johnson telling Fox's Jesse Waters primetime he agrees with the High Court's ruling.
You have to have the president with the ability to make difficult decisions hourly, daily, and not be worried about rogue prosecutors going after them at some point in the future. I mean, the president can't operate if he has that kind of sword of Damocles hanging over his head.
Johnson accusing the Biden administration of undermining the nation's highest court. President Biden back on the road with his public appearances being closely watched, more so than usual. Fox's Ryan Schmelz in Washington with more.
After a rocky debate performance raised questions about President Biden's ability to be commander-in-chief, he'll once again have the opportunity to prove it. Principal Deputy Campaign Manager Quentin Fulks.
We are in campaign season, and the president is going to continue to hit the battleground states and campaign as he has been campaigning for months.
The president is scheduled to deliver remarks today on extreme weather at the D.C. Operations Center before heading to Virginia for a campaign event. The president won the Commonwealth handily in 2020, but polls show this time around former President Trump neck and neck with the president. In Washington, Ryan Schmelz, Fox News.
The National Park Service is prepping for the annual 4th of July fireworks show in Washington, D.C. along the National Mall. Gwen Talbart with Washington, D.C. TV affiliate WTTG reports.
We were told that they were down there getting all set up and starting already to put all their preparations in place. And they are very, very aware of the fact that it is going to be a hot, sticky, muggy day. And there is a chance of seeing some storms. Mike Litteris from the National Park Service talked to us a little bit, and he was telling me how they do prepare for everything when it comes to that.
We've got to make arrangements for folks to be cool, to hydrate during the day. There's always a chance that a thunderstorm is going to fire up in the afternoon, so we do have a evacuation plan if need be.
Mike did say if it is just some light rain that the show will go on at 9:09 as planned.
I'm Sue Guzman on the Fox News Rundown.
This is the Fox News Rundown. This is News Talk STL on 1019, 94.1, and newstalkstl.com.
On the next
Larry Connors, USA.
More U.S. Supreme Court rulings are being issued. How will they affect you and your future? We'll have details.
Larry Connors, USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Tony Colombo here, along with Tim Jones for Rodney and Jen Wallner, the Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Rodney and Jen are the #1 home selling team in the area, and I could say that from personal experience. They sold our old home faster and for more money than we thought possible, which put us in a great position as we tried to find our perfect new home. And with help from the Wallners, that's exactly what we did. Christine and I couldn't be happier with our experience working with Rodney and Jen Wallner. And Tim, the numbers speak for themselves.
That's right, Tony. Everybody knows the Wallners sell 15 times more homes per year than the typical realtor. And if you're looking to sell your home, right now they have so many qualified buyers, they'll guarantee to obtain you an offer. They're licensed in both Missouri and Illinois, so no matter where you are in the St. Louis region, you can put the Wallners experience and work ethic to work for you. If you've been thinking about selling your home, don't wait. Call Rodney and Jen Wallner now at 314-810-SOLD. That's 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD for the Wallner home selling team.
From home improvement to replacement, do-it-yourself electrical projects can be shocking. That's where Grasser Electric can help. They've been lighting up St. Louis for years. From ceiling fans and dimmer switches to repair or replacing your electric. No job is too big or too small for your home or business. Grasser Electric will even install emergency backup generators. So call Grasser Electric today before the sparks start to fly. 636-441-5200 or go to grasserelectric.com.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go and pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines.
800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. That's 800-515-2397.
The O'Reilly Update, brought to you by Seavers JCB. Visit them at their St. Peter's location.
Bill O'Reilly here, and I'm warming up. Stand by for the O'Reilly Update Morning Edition. But first, are you feeling the impact of the recent changes in the timeshare industry? My friends at Lone Star Transfer are the only company I trust to help you. For more than a decade, they have successfully helped over 20,000 owners get out of their timeshare with an A+ rating at the Better Business Bureau. Customer service is their priority. For a free consultation and a guaranteed solution, 855-551-7066 or go to LoneStarTransfer.com. On this Tuesday, because we don't use anonymous sources here, I cannot confirm the following as fact, but I believe it to be true. Right now, President Biden is emulating President Nixon at the end of the Watergate mess, trying to hold on to his job. But like Nixon, he will fail. Powerful voices inside the Democratic Party understand that Biden cannot win re-election. If he stays in the race, the Democrats may well lose the Senate as well. Already, they are assured of being defeated in the House. Joe Biden received more than 80 million votes in 2020. In November, he would be fortunate to get half that number. Democratic fundraising may soon collapse in the wake of Biden's terrible debate debacle. So he has to go. But how? That's the intense internal debate right now, so to speak. There is no sliding candidate. Kamala wants it, so do Governors Newsom and Pritzker of Illinois. All are far-left zealots with little chance to defeat Donald Trump. Michelle Obama could, but she's a mystery. Expect this. Sometime soon, President Biden will step aside, as President Johnson did in 1968. But first, the K Street Democrats in D.C. have to quietly float names with the top liberal media moguls. Something as monumental as this is not done spontaneously. What is absolutely certain is that Joe Biden is finished as a powerful man. Shortly, he will have to go quietly into the night, dragging Jill Biden with him. Back after this. You can now watch new episodes of the No Spin News live on Samsung TV Plus. Tune in each weeknight at 8 p.m. on the First TV for breaking news, honest analysis, and the best election coverage in America. Please join me, Bill O'Reilly, at the First TV, now available on Samsung TV Plus. Start watching today on your Samsung television, Galaxy devices, or the Samsung TV Plus mobile app. Check out the No Spin News each weeknight at 8 p.m. on the First TV, Samsung TV Plus. That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. More analysis later on.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. The heat returns quickly on Tuesday. Our low 67, not too bad in the morning, but mostly sunny and a high of 94. Winds about 10 to 15 miles an hour out of the south. So it's going to heat up quickly with lots of sunshine Tuesday. Wednesday, a high of 94. We have a chance for a few showers or storms in the morning. They'll be weakening as they move in from the northwest. Then it heats up, that high of 94, and we'll watch for a chance of a strong, possibly severe storm in the late afternoon and evening. A little better chances just south of St. Louis, but we got to watch that for Wednesday evening. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
I heard the call to serve, so I answered. I earned a title and discovered my purpose. I found belonging, an unbreakable bond with my fellow Marines. We fought to overcome adversity together in defense of our nation and its people. I've lived a full life, rich with meaning. And even though I no longer wear the uniform, I am still a Marine. My service has come full circle. I will always look after those around me. I will always uplift and support my country and my community. Because that is the promise I made. That is what it means to be a Marine. Semper Fidelis. Always faithful, always Marine. St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk. Live and local.
I need to know what's going on in my city.
News Talk STL. Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. Having your first cup of coffee? Mike's on his third. This is Mike Ferguson in the Morning on News Talk STL.
Okay, another big ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court. Donald Trump does have immunity from criminal prosecution for the most part. So basically, the Supreme Court said, oh, that thing, yeah, that's covered. He's got immunity, can't be prosecuted for that. Those things, maybe not. We'll let some courts decide. And that, no. He doesn't have immunity if something like that happens. Well, what is that? That we'll get into that here in just a little bit, bring you up to date. Little bit of a complicated ruling, but for the most part, this was a big win for Donald Trump at the Supreme Court. Hey, good morning. Thanks for making News Talk STL part of this Tuesday. Another big thing that's happening that's kind of flying under the radar, except for us here at News Talk STL. China is buying up some agricultural assets. We know about them buying land, not just on the Missouri side, but now on the Illinois side, but also some of the manufacturing and processing of agricultural products. Talk about our food here. On Monday, Congressman Mike Bost joined us to explain what China is doing, what the CCP's involvement is, and most importantly, what it could mean to us. Here's what he had to say. Saw your press release and I went, wait a minute, I didn't even know that was happening. Can you kind of give the foundation for what's happening? Look, we're talking about in Cahokia, basically.
The Cahokia grain terminal, which was controlled and owned by Growmark, was fully acquired by by a Chinese state-run company. Now, let me explain something to you that people will say, oh yeah, but that's not the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. Yeah, no. The idea of Communist Party is, if it's from China, they control it.
Right.
Okay, That's the problem. It has concerned me really, really bad. It also, just so you know, we basically wrote a letter to the, I say we, so understand that's not in my district anymore. It used to be. It's now Nikki Bedinsky's. And she and I went together to write to Secretary Yeltsin and ask her to start watching foreign interest. Remember, at the beginning of this congressional year, you and I talked about the fact that we had the committee on China to find out, because they're buying up this asset, they're buying up land. They buy up land sometimes way too close to many of our military installations. But this is controlling the food chain. Okay, you expressed that. Now understand this, because it is the shipping of our commodities: wheat, corn, soybeans. All of these will go through a market like this. They're doing it not only on the East Coast and the West Coast on our ocean shipping, but now our intermodal river transports. That is a concern. We must start paying attention to what's going on, and the administration has to start paying attention what's going on, and we actually have to put some sensible things in place. That doesn't mean we stop trade, but it does mean that when someone remember, our forefathers about 50 some years ago, unfortunately, along with the World Trade Organization, allowed China to join the World Trade Organization. The problem is the idea of the forefathers at that time, if they just see how great capitalism is, they'll become capitalists. No. They're imperialist. They're going to be imperialist, and they're playing for the long game. And now we've let them into the World Trade Organization, which makes it very difficult then to try to stop anything like this.
Morning, Mike. Gabe Pfeiffer here. So,
okay.
Gosh, I just lost my question.
Well,
go ahead,
it happens. Okay, so but let me follow up on the other aspect. Like under U.S. laws, state laws, Congressman, we've got the right to buy property. In this country, you generally don't have to be a U.S. citizen to buy property. Why is it? I guess the question is, should there be any changes to that, and can we do that in a way that still respects property rights in the U.S.?
Yes, we can. And it is, you as a citizen have the right to buy and sell property. When you are a large corporation, you have the right to buy and sell with free nations. Russian interests don't normally are allowed to, the list can go on and on of where we have controls from certain nations buying certain things inside our borders. And also, and yes, you can still have the free trade. You can still allow people to make a profit. But I'm going to tell you, if you're an American citizen, why in the world would you sell? And I mean, greed, I understand that. Mm-hmm. But, and I don't mean that bad towards, look, I'm a big supporter of Growmark and will be. They have been a great American company. And they're not probably happy with the letter that we put together, but people, we've got to control our interest. Communist China is trying to buy our farmland. They're buying our corporations up and having control of that. That's a very dangerous situation. They are building islands in international waters. They have the largest Navy now by far of any country in the world, the largest amount of military aircraft, more than any country in the world. Folks, we've got to keep an eye on them.
Actually, I do remember my question now. Well, part of it was covered by Mike, and that the sort of libertarian argument of free enterprise. But is there a national interest or a defense interest case to be made for limiting foreign ownership of any particularly important infrastructure like food production and things like that? Because I know, at least on a different note, we absolutely control international arms trades, right? So
that's correct.
Is this something that could fall into that sort of realm, given the right set of legislative circumstances?
So there are certain rules written in our trade laws and our ability and what we allow our Commerce Commission to do. Matter of fact, the best example of that was whenever President Trump put in the 232 that actually put high tariffs on any steel coming from China. But it was done based on the fact that our international interest and national security was at danger because we didn't have enough companies producing our steel and cable that went into our transformers. So there are those areas in the law already that can be used by the administration once the Secretary, well, in this case, Secretary of the Treasury or the Secretary of Commerce have the ability to see if there's a national interest and concern, and then they can stop this stuff.
Okay, so legislatively or regulatory, from a regulatory perspective, what should be the response, say, from Congress when you reconvene as the entire body?
Well, if the administration does not act, then we have to try to carry legislation to force them to act or make it law where it can't. Where you can't make these purchases. But to Gabe's statement of, still wanting to be a free society, we've got to make sure that the law that we write, if we're going to write a law, right now, you leave it to the supposedly, and that's what you have to deal with when you have an administration, the trust that those people in the administration understand the laws that they already have to use them to not allow this to occur. And should have done it before. Now the sale's already done. So now I don't know what the process is going to be. But we can carry law. We have to be very, very careful that we're not hampering the opportunity for growth between free nations. And that's always a challenge. And that's why you got to sit down and really look at the language you're putting together. Also, why you should probably read a bill before you pass it.
Hey, good morning, Mike. Stalponticus here. Got a question for you from a viewer on Rumble who's asking whether it's accurate that much of the bottomland on the Illinois side from St. Louis down to the area across from St. Genevieve is owned by Chinese interests.
I do not know that, but I can definitely check that out and find out. Well, there's a map that shows where, especially from this committee that I'm not on, by the way. But I can check with that committee. I think there's a map out there that shows highlighted land around this nation. There was a lot of it purchased out west, and a lot of the like I say, the real problem is that the amount of land they're buying up to and next to a lot of our military installations. Scott Air Force Base would be one. So those are concerns.
We're visiting with Congressman Mike Bost. I want to switch gears just a little bit. Obviously, since the debacle of the debate the other day, there's now a national conversation as to President Biden's literal cognitive ability to serve as the commander in chief and serve as the president of the United States. I know you can't speak for what the Democrats are going to do with the election right now, but what's the word and what's sort of the vibe in Congress right now, seeing on display what happened with President Biden freezing up, and I'm trying not to make jokes about it because he's still the president of the United States right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and let's say this, okay? First off, if you see anyone of that age that is in that type of situation, we don't make jokes because it's a very serious thing in life, but that's a point in life. Let me explain this: that my father, who we lost 3 years ago now, about 3 years before his death, he was just like that. Okay. And we would not let him run the family business, and we would not let him, he sat on the bank board, but he was, he was a ex officio member because he'd been on the bank board so long. So if you can't run a bank and you can't do that, now here's the problem I see here. We just displayed that to the world. That's a very scary situation for us. We need to watch very, very closely. Now, understand this. The 25th Amendment, there's been talk of that. There's two ways that can implement, from what I understand. One is a supermajority of the cabinet members request it to be done. That's probably not going to happen. And or Congress moves to do that. Unfortunately, the political situation that we're in right now will probably not allow that to happen, because even if you tried to move it'd be a political argument, not a argument for the nation as a whole, even though it may need to be an argument for the nation as a whole. I might say that. But I tell you that who's been running the country? That's a concern I have. How are the decisions actually made? How long has this been going on? And it's a concern that many of us have had for a long time. And so it was very serious. And the most serious thing is that we allowed our enemies as well as our allies to see our situation as far as our commander in chief.
All right, Congressman Mike Bost, we've already tagged you on social media as always. I really appreciate the update, because when I saw the press release and the letter that you had co-authored on that, I thought there's a lot of other things overwhelming this particular news story, but I want to make sure that we put this in the spotlight at least for a few minutes.
I'm glad you got it out there, because remember, this is the importance of that special committee that we formed on China. This is not just happening right here in our own backyard. It's happening all over the United States.
All right, Congressman Bost, we'll talk to you again soon. That first morning news dump of the day comes your way here in just about 2 minutes and 18 seconds right here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson in the morning. So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Come join the conversation. All you have to do is say,
Hey Alexa, play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
What's the key to maximizing the value of your outdoor space? Satisfaction. And getting a fence or deck that exceeds expectations with the highest quality, American-made material. And working with a team that cares about your project as much as you do. And adding safety and security for your family and pets to play, relax, and entertain. At STL Fenceworks, satisfaction is our core value. Doing it right the first time, staying above the competition. At STLFenceworks.com, your satisfaction is our passion.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss as part of our lineup every week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can hear Doug and Safe Money Radio 3 times every weekend on News Talk STL. And in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Bost is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
You can't buy a best friend. You can love them, walk them, pet them, and care for them, whether they want you to or not. You can take a picture or 50. You can fly to the moon, travel the world, or just stay in bed. You can't buy a best friend like that, but you can adopt one. There are millions of pets waiting for a best friend just like you. Help us save them all at bestfriends.org.
Hey, thank you very much for taking my call.
News, analysis, opinion.
Yes, I just want you to know what a breath of fresh air you people are.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hey everyone, this is State Senator Nick Schroer. I am the host of Stand and Fight every Sunday night. Right now, let's hear more of Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL.
The Morning News Dump.
Are you joking? Is this a joke?
Listen, folks, the Morning News Dump.
All right, presidents cannot be prosecuted for that, but they could possibly be prosecuted for that.
How about this?
Maybe this, but we're not sure.
Okay, all right.
But that other thing,
yeah,
we got to ask the other court.
All right.
All right, it is clear as mud. Actually, it's a little bit of clarity, but we'll get into that here in just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and put out the call right now, 314-912-1019. You've heard the news by now. You have heard that the Supreme Court gave Donald Trump a win regarding presidential immunity, basically accepting, I would say, the majority of his claims of presidential immunity. They did not say blanket presidential immunity.
Did not.
But I would say that overall he gets a win in the Supreme Court on that.
Sort of.
So when somebody's, yeah, that's a good way to put it. Sort of. So what it means is, as far as will he be prosecuted for the whole January 6th stuff, they did not actually wipe that off the table.
Mm-mm.
And so we'll get into the details on that here in just a little bit. Gas is getting even more expensive in the metro. You can thank government for that. And one of the region's best known malls is about to meet the wrecking balls.
Oh boy.
Ooh, I rhymed there. All right. It is 5:54. That's Stell. I am Mike. Gabe will be here any moment now. Okay. The Supreme Court has ruled that the former president or former presidents are entitled to some immunity from prosecution.
In a historic 6-3 ruling, justices said former presidents have absolute immunity for official acts, but no immunity for unofficial acts. And the high court is sending Donald Trump's immunity case back to a lower court to figure out how it applies to the former president. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote that the president is not above the law, but Congress may not criminalize the president's conduct in carrying out constitutional responsibilities. The immediate outcome means an extended delay in the Trump matter and the unlikelihood that a trial could be held before the November presidential election. Greg Clugston, Washington.
There's going to be a lot to unpack today on that. All right. President Biden making a statement criticizing that decision. And he did so by quoting from the dissent and Justice Sonia Sotomayor.
Here's what she said. She said, in every use of official power, the president is now a king above the law. With fear for our democracy, I dissent. End of quote. So should the American people dissent. I dissent.
All right. And on the story with Martha McCallum on Fox News last night, Senator John Kennedy had this response.
The Constitution and common sense demonstrate that the Justice Department can't prosecute a president, not criminally, for an official act. It can for a personal act.
Okay, like I said, we're going to unpack this throughout the morning here as well. And in case somebody says, there you go, he can't be prosecuted for all the stuff that happened on January 6th. Well, they haven't actually decided that part yet. The Supreme Court basically set the parameters for what the lower courts are going to have to decide there. We'll get into that in more detail in a little bit. All right, need to fill up the tank? Do it on the Missouri side of the region. As of Monday, as of yesterday, Illinois now has the second highest gas tax in the nation, 47 cents a gallon.
You know, I forgot those taxes change on July 1st.
Yep, they sure did. The increase takes the tax up 2 more cents per gallon. This is part of J.B. Pritzker's so-called Rebuild Illinois tax and revenue plan. But get this, back before 2019, so not that long ago, the Illinois gas tax, you want to guess what it was? It's 47 cents now, but before 2019, guess what it was?
30.
19 cents.
19.
So it's gone from 19 cents a gallon to 47 cents a gallon since 2019.
Wow.
California has the highest gas tax at 60 cents a gallon. Missouri's gas tax also went up yesterday, by the way, from 24.5 cents per gallon to 27.5 cents per gallon. All right, the end is near for the Chesterfield Mall. It's going to finally happen. The official closing date will be August 31st, and demolition is scheduled to begin October 15th. The mall will be replaced with a $2 billion mixed-use development that's going to include retail space, restaurants, and apartments.
You know what? Yeah, boy, you see the malls go, and so many memories go too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was born in the 70s and a child of the 80s. And so, I mean, the shopping mall, Quincy, basically, Columbia, Missouri, those were where I spent a lot of time.
And for folks here, you had Crestwood Mall, Northwest Plaza, Jamestown Mall.
Well, I remember when Union Station was the mall, and I'd hang out down there.
Exactly.
When I was in high school, in college.
And St. Louis City Center, which is long gone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Let's see here. We got a little bit more time here. All right. Missouri Governor Mike Parson put his veto pen to use this week, cutting $1 billion out of the budget approved by lawmakers. Among the cuts are $6 million to pay for Missouri National Guard troops at the southern border. He is leaving $2 million in that budget. $150 million of the funds to expand I-44. And also he's cutting $500 million set aside to renovate the state capitol building. The remaining state budget, though, still over $50 billion with a B, $50 billion.
Wow.
Yeah. And the $500 million for the state capitol, they are still planning to spend that, but he says there's no work planned this fiscal year, so there's no reason to set the money aside. And the Cardinals start a series on the road tonight. They're in Pittsburgh to take on the Pirates. First pitch is at 5:40. Kyle Gibson will start on the mound for the Redbirds. Now, after the Brewers lost yesterday, because remember, the Cardinals didn't play yesterday. So after the Brewers lost, the Cardinals are now 6 games out of first place in the division.
Interesting times in the division.
Old man winter in the rearview mirror. Warmer weather here. Time to call Hanson's Tree Service. 636-379-1830. 24/7 at hansonstree.com. This is the perfect time to spruce up and beautify your landscape beds. When you purchase organic mulch in bulk from Hanson's, you save on price, time, and incredibly convenient. Tons of commercial and residential tree care services as well. Grinding and land clearing, plant health care, and more. 636-379-1830. hansonstree.com. hansonstree.com.
Seavers JCB has amazing deals on JCB mini excavators ranging from 2 tons to 10 tons. The choice is yours to take 5 on one of these great offers. Take 0% financing for 5 years or take up to a $5,500 cash rebate and 5-year warranty. See terms and conditions for details. These offers are for a limited time, so head to your nearest Seavers JCB and check out their full line of JCB construction equipment or visit SeaversJCB.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. Former President Trump describing the Supreme Court ruling on presidential immunity as a big win for democracy and our Constitution. President Biden, on the other hand, insisting the ruling sets a dangerous precedent. The 6-3 decision upholding the concept of broad protection from prosecution for presidents for official acts that were taken while they were in office. And in light of that high court ruling, former President Trump's lawyers asking Judge Juan Merchan to delay Mr. Trump's sentencing. It's scheduled for next week in his New York criminal trial. Many Democrats remain worried about Joe Biden's re-election chances, even as his campaign forges on.
Team Biden says the campaign continues after the president's disastrous debate showing and that he's fit for the job. But Democrats remain panicked, especially after seeing the early post-debate poll numbers. Nearly 3/4 of all registered voters in a CBS News poll don't think Biden has the mental and cognitive health to be president. And a USA Today poll shows nearly half of registered Democrats don't think the president should be running. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Now, a Category 5 Hurricane Beryl continues savaging the islands of the Caribbean.
While the nations through which Beryl has passed are dealing with the damage left behind, other countries in the region continue to brace themselves for the storm's arrival. It is expected to continue its trajectory through the Caribbean before hitting the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico by the end of the week.
That's the BBC's Will Grant. Israel may be preparing to launch a new ground offensive in Gaza's second largest city. The Israeli army ordering the mass evacuation of Palestinian civilians from much of the city of Khan Yunis. On Wall Street this morning, stock futures in the red so far. The Dow futures are down 121 points. Nasdaq futures off 91, and the S&P futures down 21. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions for free. Call now and find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-504-8790. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell everyone listening who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me here. It's always nice to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. 800-504-8790. You'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now. 800-504-8790.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center.
From the Michael's Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Back to hot today. A high of 93 this afternoon under mostly sunny skies. Some strong thunderstorms will break out to our northwest this evening and tonight, but they should be weakening as they move towards St. Louis overnight and early tomorrow. A warm night down to 77 for the low. But a new batch of potentially severe storms pops in the afternoon tomorrow near or just south of St. Louis. Steamy high tomorrow at 94. A couple of rounds of rain and storms, unfortunately likely on the 4th of July as well. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
I want to learn how to cook, but I keep ordering takeout.
Accomplishing goals is hard, but when your goal is to learn a new language, Babbel makes it easy. In just 15 minutes a day, Babbel will help you start having conversations in as little as 3 weeks. Words and phrases you'll actually use. So when someone asks, "How's your French going?" you can say,
Babbel facilite grandement l'apprentissage d'une nouvelle langue.
Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
Hi, I'm Karen, owner of Lone Star Transfer. If you felt like booking your timeshare was difficult in the past, you know it's been almost impossible over the last few years. With an A+ rating at the BBB, our clients know Lone Star Transfer is the only company they can trust. We guarantee the release of all liability to your timeshare in writing and in a specific time frame. Call us today to receive a free, no-obligation consultation at 833-594-0077 or online at lonestartransfer.com.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Like Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Mike Ferguson.
I'm the world's heavyweight wrestling champion.
Gabe Pfeiffer.
I'm Batman.
Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm? Get up!
I want to be clear. I'm not going nuts.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Good morning to the people of St. Louis.
All right, another local business that told, and this is how my brain works. There was one business that was so angry and dismissive and arrogant about the whole "you got to show us your vaccine papers" thing. Well, now they're selling the business.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Now, nobody is actually pointing out that, hey, weren't they one of those? It was a few years ago. They survived it, but now the owner's ready to sell. It just kind of reminded me. So I just want to mention it that this is one of those businesses that really insulted you if you wanted to dare get a cheeseburger without taking the vaccine back in the day. So we'll tell you about that here in a second. Also, okay, what exactly did the U.S. Supreme Court rule when it comes to the whole presidential immunity thing? Let's go through that around 6:20.
We need to understand this properly.
And I just asked the question on Rumble. All right, everybody, sound off. Did the Supreme Court get the presidential immunity thing right? So I want to hear the opinions. And then quick note on social media. We're still having the Facebook thing going on, right? Still.
Yeah, there's still an issue there.
Okay, so here's what's going on, because we've had spotty things with Facebook. I don't think Facebook is trying to censor us, but somebody out there is trying to attack our station's Facebook page over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And so what happens is Facebook's like self-defense things kick in, and then we sort of get locked in what we can do, and then we have to sort it out. We've had to change our password like 3 times in the last 2 weeks, and apparently it's happening again. So we're over the target.
Yes.
Because somebody's going after our social media and Facebook stuff really, really, really hard.
And the interesting facet is, up until today, we could still, I believe, stream the video,
right?
But folks couldn't comment,
right?
Today, we can't even access it to get on it.
Yeah. So if you're looking for the Facebook, just go to Twitter, go to Rumble, go to YouTube. We're still on all of those. But this is one of those, because Facebook has not been good to us, but I don't think this is Facebook's fault. I think this is somebody out there attacking, our station. Why? I don't know. Maybe it's because we're conservative and we're getting things right. Maybe it's just for some other reason. I don't know, but that's what's going on if you're trying to find us on Facebook. Okay. I think we talked about this stuff because we did kind of a list of shame, Gabe, if I remember right, with the businesses that were saying you may not come in here without showing your papers.
Oh yeah, we definitely went hard against them. We said, hey, look, here are the bad actors right now in this sort of tyrannical COVID regime here. So and these guys fell among that group, didn't they?
Yeah, they sure did. And they were pretty arrogant. So let me get to that here in just a second. But real quick, I saw another one of these stories. Every year it happens around this time, right before the 4th. It's basically, we're getting all the warnings. Celebrate your independence, celebrate your freedom, but that's illegal.
It is kind of funny when you really think about it.
Because
but you can't do that here.
The fireworks. You can't do the fireworks. And St. Louis County officials are like, fireworks are illegal in St. Louis County. Now, I'm going to point out this. They're not illegal to sell them in many parts of the area. So a lot of areas where it's like, sure, you can sell them because we want the tax revenue, but don't get caught with them or blowing them up. I don't know about where you guys live, but I remember the first couple 4ths of July, because with me, of course we may get some rain, but I don't do a big party. But if you guys want to come over and hang out, come on out. But it's funny because like the pumper trucks for the Richmond Heights Fire Department will actually patrol like a police car,
just in case they need to put out somebody's
fire truck will actually patrol. They
wow.
I don't know if they're going to this year.
That actually sounds fun.
So so all of the government types are like, these are illegal. Don't use fireworks. Go enjoy your freedom. Celebrate freedom. That always cracks me up.
All you got to do is drive 44. And I knew this before we moved out to Washington. 44 is like fireworks alley.
Oh yeah, the tents.
And you got them everywhere on both sides of the highway, going all the way out, even past Washington. You could buy $1 gazillion worth of fireworks and bring them back into the city.
I was out at a wedding. Gosh, where the heck was I? Creekcore, I guess I was. But just everywhere, all the malls, all the little the little strip malls, they had like a tent set out somewhere in the middle of their big old parking lot selling fireworks, and I passed like 8 of them on the way to this wedding reception.
Do you guys still buy fireworks at all?
No.
Yeah, I got to a point where I was like, literally, that's my money exploding in front of me. I'm like,
well, the years we lived in the city, we didn't have to buy any because everybody around us
well, were those
decided to do fireworks
or were those gunshots?
Both. Okay. They were both.
You're playing the St. Louis game.
Yeah, and we would pick up the shells in the morning.
Yeah. Gunshots or fireworks? Gunshots. That one was an M80 and that one was an M16.
That's about how it was.
The funny part is, when I was a kid, it was like fireworks were just normal. I mean,
of course. And you had the what was it, bottle rocket fights and all that stuff.
we did have bottle rocket fights, and our parents would just roll their eyes, at us, because we would literally take the old Coke bottles and then we would light it, and we would like split up into teams or armies,
yes,
chase each other around and shoot the bottle rockets. I mean, they were hitting people's houses. They were. I mean, I can't believe that we were allowed to do that stuff back then.
Yeah, those particular ones aren't so bad. I think it's the problem is when people want to like hold these things in their hands and when you put an explosion in an enclosed space, it wants to get everything in its way out of the way.
Right, yeah.
If that includes your fingers, that's a problem. So don't hold them.
Yeah,
you can shoot them at each other though.
Here's the other thing that was funny about fireworks is like when you've got like really little kids, it's like, well, the firecrackers are too dangerous for them. So here, kid, hold the sparkler and wave that around.
Little fire stick.
Right. And aren't those like the temperature of the sun or something like that?
Yeah, you do not touch the end.
Yeah, those are like, I don't know what those are made of, but it's like
a phosphorus, I think.
Yeah, incredibly hot.
Yeah.
It's not like the heat of your like a match or a lighter. It is incredibly hot. But
yeah.
Here you go, baby. Just, swing this around.
Swing it around.
Oh my
Just
goodness.
don't put it in your mouth. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so some of the restaurants and the bars and the pubs, remember back in 2021 and some of that era where for some reason a lot of the St. Louis businesses in particular got very arrogant against people who were pushing back against like mask orders and vaccines and things like that.
Oh yeah.
And
very dismissive of our concerns about liberty and all these other things. Oh yeah, they were very much in the Arnold Schwarzenegger "screw your freedom" line.
Yeah, they really were. So Shaw is for sale. Now they're not going out of business. I saw a big write-up in St. Louis Magazine and Channel 4 does it. And so they say they're going to be very picky. They're not in a hurry to sell, but the owner says, you know what, it's a whole new world. I can't really keep up. I've, kept the business going and now I want to sell. And they're going to they say be very, very picky on who they sell it to. But I remember when I saw that story, because I'm like, oh yeah, O'Connell's Pub. I drive by there all the time. And I thought, wait a minute, weren't they one of those that we talked about a few years ago? And I did a little search and yes, they were. They were one of those that had a rule, because if I remember our conversation back then, Gabe, it was we thought it's your private property. You're free to set whatever rules you want.
Sure.
And their rule was you had to prove that you were vaccinated. I think they even required like a negative test to come in and buy a burger from it.
Something like that. It was a little bit more of a hurdle than other places.
Almost like a vaccine paper, a vaccine. What was the card that
the passport?
The little card. Yeah.
And I know other cities had that. New York City, we have friends who live in New York City who had that issue. I didn't realize it had gotten that bad.
Yeah, they had the passport plus. Basically, it's like you got to show that you're vaccinated, but also have a negative test.
I'm trying to remember whether they were one that required the negative test. But
I think so.
They put up on social media, because the internet's forever. They said, we don't want you to come and sit outside and then send a server to go out and wait on the people who are not vaccinated. No way. Just don't come to the pub ever. It's not safe for you to come now or at any point in the future. If you aren't vaccinated or don't plan to be vaccinated, don't come ever.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Their statement was just so off the wall. It's like,
right.
Okay. Jeez.
So here's the thing is we're now supposed to forget all of this by 2024. This is all in the past. Thank God that era is over. Should there still be consequences for what these places did when they fell for all the fear mongering? Absolutely.
At least for those that haven't come around, the ones who haven't made a statement to say, you know what, we were wrong. We're not going to do this again. I leave room for people to admit their, how wrong they were, to turn around. That repentance. That's basically what that means. You change direction. You change how you're behaving. But for those who want to sweep it under the rug and they just say, oh, come on, that was in the past. It's like, oh, we were in a pandemic. Don't worry. For all of that. No, I'm not going to forget it. You showed me the tyrannical streak that runs through your character. And, and you have not asked for forgiveness for it. You have not changed. Why should I expect anything different from you in the future?
It's sad for a legendary venue like that to to go through that, because that's been around for years, always recognized as having some of the best burgers
since
in town.
Since 1960s.
Boy, yeah, that's I can remember when I was at SLU that kids from the dorm would go there in the 70s. So it's sad to see that. And Mike, like you mentioned, selling the business. Gee, I wonder what kind of new ownership they'll be looking for.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think maybe they'll cut the list down to a certain perspective politically? Oh no! Oh gosh, no, that won't happen.
And by the way, I think you should be able to pick and choose whoever you sell something to. I think there are too many rules on like selling for real estate and things like that, but here's the thing is, and we're getting some comments, people saying, yeah, remember that they did that. And I like your point. If somebody later says, we really got over our skis on that, man, did we really lose our mind? We are so sorry. We're, if somebody does that, hey, we were wrong, I get, but nobody seems to want to do that.
Nope.
I mean, I got one round of the vaccines, and I frankly look back, I'm like, if I had to do over again, I wouldn't have done that. And now the CDC and the NIH is saying, hey, we're really encouraging everybody to get the vaccination for this coming year. And I'm like, you do what you want. I'm not going to do it. I'm done with it. Maybe we could admit now what you and me and Ken, before Stell came on board here, because we had agreed because I mean, St. Louis City was fear mongering and trying to scare everybody to death. We all decided, because all of us had either already had COVID or I think I got a vaccine. I don't think either of you guys did.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. And I don't know if
Ken did.
He did.
Yeah.
But, and then, but all of us had it at one point. And we just decided amongst ourselves, we're like, okay, if somebody tests positive, but you're not sick.
Right. Yes. Don't tell me.
We're just coming in. We're just doing the show.
Yeah.
We're not going to worry about it. And I stopped doing any test or anything.
Oh
like
gosh.
that.
Yeah. We stopped testing.
And so with these businesses, it wasn't even so much, if it's one thing where they were scared of Sam Page or scared of Tashara Jones, or scared of JV.
My hands are tied, man.
We don't like it any more than you do, but those are the rules. They're going to take our license if we don't.
I think of those people differently.
Yeah. Those are some, I look at them kind of as cowards.
Yeah, on
to
some level.
degree.
Yeah.
I look at almost every church as a coward from that era because because they didn't push back when they should have. But for those who did like this restaurant and many others, in concert halls, Delmar Hall did this, all this, basically they were like, we're all in. And, if you don't want to do this, then you're not good enough and you hate us and we hate you. And now it's like, oh, don't worry about it. The good times back in the day. Wasn't that funny? No, don't forget, because if the same people are there and they haven't acknowledged how badly they treated other people, you were their customers. I mean, I've been invited. Hey, let's meet up at O'Connell's. And I'm like, nah, I'm good. No, thanks.
No, thanks.
Their burgers are great. I'm sure they are. That's what I've heard, but no, thanks. I'll pass. All right. Shall we do this? Shall we do this presidential immunity thing?
Oh yeah. I think we need to.
Yep. Supreme Court ruled. I put the question out on Rumble. We've got it out in other places. What do you think? Did the Supreme Court get it right? Let's talk about it right here. 1019-94.1 News Talk STL.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Get up, in case you hear the alarm. Get up, this is your cousin. Get up, what are you waiting for? Get up, get up. You want to give me more information? You want to take the place of what I trust?
Number one for live and local
conservative talk.
Well, what are you talking about?
News, analysis, and opinion.
The only person on the stage is a convicted felon, is the man I'm looking at right now. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. Everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare. He was right, he did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare.
1019 and 94.1.
St. Louis is number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
All right. Time to look around your house and say, how can I make this better? So many different ways. My wife and I have been doing so much renovation on our home. for the reason that we want to improve it. We want to increase, obviously, the value and security, although we don't plan to move from it. And so we've done a lot to the house. Admittedly, we've done a lot to the house. And one of the things that I think everybody should consider that almost nobody thinks about from time to time are the windows. And you may say, hey, there's no cracks in my windows. I mean, they look fine. Nothing's broken. That's great. But what about this? Is a draft getting through in the winter? Well, if a draft is getting through in the winter, you got to put a little towel or something on there to keep the cold air out. Well, that means that your air conditioning is going the other way as well. It means that your furnace in the winter is also working overtime. So it means your home is not as efficient as it should be. And we know energy prices are only going to go up. And that's why you should call my friends at Window World. Mike Ferguson here for Window World. They are simply the best for less. Give them a call today, 314-993-1800, and just ask them what they can do for you. And you may say, oh, man, Mike, windows are like super expensive. Well, no, they're actually less expensive than even generic windows. And these are double strength glass windows. But here's the thing. You save money up front. And they're now offering 0% financing up to 36 months. So it's even easier to own a Window World window, and they're custom made for your home, and they are made in the United States. And so what happens is you save money up front because they're less expensive. And if you need to start with just like that one wall in that one room, okay, great, do that. But then they save you money because your home is more energy efficient. And then you've got that lifetime warranty that I keep talking about. And I keep bringing it up because that is such a big deal. You buy that window one time, and then Window World takes care of it after that. So give them a call today, 314-993-1800. And then here's what's going to happen is they'll set up the time. They'll come out, and they're going to try to be in and out as quickly as they can, 30, 45 minutes at most. So they can show you the product. They can answer your questions. They're going to hand you, some brochures and things like that. And they'll take some measurements and give you a quote. And then they do something different. They say, you have a great day. Give us a call when you're ready to move forward or when you have more questions. You've all been there. A storm goes through, some shingles are damaged, or somebody knocks on your door and they say, hey, we do siding in the area. We're working on this other house, and we see you have some siding you may want to do. And then they say, can we talk to you about it? And then you're in a high pressure situation where they won't let you go. And they're using that. My wife and I had that with a roofing company. And I was ready to physically throw them off my property. I was so mad at the high pressure sales and the insulting way that they're not going to leave. And one guy actually said at one point, he goes, listen, these appointments, a company looks at it as lost money if you don't buy something. And I had to go, that's not my problem. I had an adjective in there, but I'm not going to say on the radio. But with Window World, that's not what they do, because these are St. Louis people. These are not fly-by-night people. They've been in business here for 20 years, and they know how to treat people right. So give them a call, 314-993-1800. Once they show you what they have to offer, it's completely up to you, and they're going to let you make your decision, and you do it on your time because they value their reputation just as much as they value these products that they put in your home. So give them a call today, 314-993-1800. Remember, they are the preferred window of the St. Louis Blues. Tell them Mike was talking about them on the radio, 314-993-1800.
To all our incredible supporters, we at the David Dorn Foundation say thank you. Your 5-star online reviews that you recently posted are beacons of encouragement on our mission to assist first responders. And a shout out to Steve Katraba, who reviewed us with these powerful words. The Dorn Foundation continues to fill a need in the public safety community and thereby to the public. Steve, your words are more than a review. They show the impact we're making for first responders. To read more strong reviews, Google the Dorn Foundation now.
Hey, Columbo here for the great team at All Solutions Pest Control. We've been using pest control services at our home for years, and the results we've had with All Solutions are second to none. So if you're experiencing a pest problem, or more importantly, want to prevent a problem, All Solutions Pest Control are the ones to call. Right now, you can take advantage of their incredible $67 introductory offer. Learn more and contact them now at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Danny Define with the Next Gen right here on Sundays at 10 p.m. Now back to a hot, steamy cup of Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
All day,
I always like Matchbox 20.
Yep.
It's good stuff.
I don't think they get credit, credit for a lot of the good stuff that they put out.
Yeah. Yeah, they had some really good stuff back in the 90s. All right. Donald Trump gets a win from the Supreme Court. He's now going to become a dictator or something like that.
That's what they're saying.
That's how this works, right?
That's
At
what
least
they're saying.
All right.
Yeah. For a day.
For a day.
King for a day.
Hey, if you could do it for a day, I'll be honest, would you?
Oh, heck yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Let's be
He's got his list of executive orders ready to go.
All right, still ahead here. Is the mainstream media starting to get it and realize that they could be wrong on the radical gender ideology they've been pushing? Nah, maybe. I doubt it. But are they feeling the pressure for being so out of touch with reality and the backlash from that? Let's find out why we're asking that question at 6:35. Maria Bear. She is a writer for World Magazine, and she's also hosts the podcast for the Chuck Colson Center. So they focus a lot on the whole cultural aspect of things. We're going to talk to her at 6:35. It's 6:27 right now. All right, I want to touch on this. Immunity ruling from the Supreme Court. So here are the basics of it, and we'll unpack it more throughout the morning here. Basically, the Supreme Court agreed with Donald Trump and his legal team that there are some things that presidents cannot be prosecuted for. But they did not go as far as to say that somebody who is president can never be prosecuted.
Right.
So basically they said, if it is an official act as president, if you are doing the job of president, they didn't say you're doing it well.
Right.
Here's the thing. They didn't even necessarily say that you're doing it legally or constitutionally.
Well, actually, I think they did.
Well, but they said if it's an official act, that the president has basically an assumption of immunity,
right,
on this. And so they also said, but if he's acting, basically if he's after his 8 to 5 and just doing something personal or something campaign or something like that, and it's not related to the actual job, then the president, he or she, can be prosecuted criminally.
Right.
Because the whole civil thing's already been settled by the court. You can't sue the president for a decision that the president makes in a civil matter.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. I think the wording was absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for actions within his, and there's the legalese,
right,
conclusive and preclusive constitutional authority.
Right.
So if you're doing stuff within your constitutional authority as the executive, then that is, you're immune from prosecution for that stuff.
So the Trump administration the Trump legal team basically was arguing, if you're the president, you can do, whatever you decide to do as president, and you would never face any sort of prosecution for that. The Supreme Court is left a little tiny wiggle room for the just in case, basically down there. Now, you may say, okay, what does this mean on the whole January 6th case? Because all this is related to Jack Smith's case against him regarding the whole January 6th thing, trying to criminally prosecute him for the riots at the Capitol. We don't know because that has been sent back to a lower court, and the Supreme Court has said, them's the rules.
Right.
Here's the parameters. You now have to evaluate the charges against what we have just said as far as where the immunity applies and does not.
Yeah, like a lot of things, when there is a precedent set, when there's a standard set, essentially, which is what the Supreme Court did with their ruling, then that determines what the lawyers are going to argue about.
Right.
That's ultimately what the Supreme Court does. It's okay. So when they set the question, or when they set the standard that the absolute immunity exists when the president is acting within the conclusive and preclusive constitutional authority. Now it's up to the lawyers and the judge to argue about whether or not certain actions are or fall within that category of conclusive and preclusive constitutional authority. So that's actually what the question is going to be at the lower court.
Right. And we do know that this makes it basically impossible for that trial to happen prior to the election.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not going to happen.
It will be almost impossible.
Right.
By the way, unless their argument is that he was making a campaign speech when because particularly they're trying to prosecute Donald Trump about the speech on January 6th. Like that's the key action that they are saying was criminal. Now, unless that speech is considered a campaign speech as opposed to a presidential address, I think that's where the rub's going to get. Okay, is this within the conclusive and preclusive constitutional authority of the president?
Right. So basically, what that looks like in this particular case is yet to be determined. Barely Biggs on Rumble says, I think the Democrats forget that this ruling applies to them as well. I'm more afraid of what they'll do as opposed to Trump.
I think they know, they're just not talking about it.
Yeah.
Because right now the aim is to get Trump, right? But
sure,
oddly enough, one of the interesting things is Biden, for those who are wanting basically Biden's head for all of the criminal activity he has encouraged at the border through his executive actions and through his speeches and things like that. This says he's immune from any criminal prosecution because of those actions, because they are within his constitutional authority.
Well, let's go even one step further. The Supreme Court has made a very clear ruling regarding student loan cancellations.
True.
He has
violated
that blatantly. He cannot be prosecuted criminally for violating the Supreme Court's order.
Right.
He can't be sued for it either. The programs can be sued. And, he actually, there's one court that's letting some of his student loan changes go through. But, overall, the Supreme Court said you can't do this. That's unconstitutional. He's doing it anyway, trying to do it piecemeal. And he's even said, we're working around it. So Joe Biden's not going to be, cannot be prosecuted for that.
Right.
If, for instance, on the stuff with Robert Hur and those investigations and all that sort of thing, if they found illegal activity while Joe Biden was president, does that mean he can be prosecuted for business dealings with other countries? Well, maybe.
It depends on whether it falls in
whether it falls, right?
Yeah, in the constitutional authority question.
And you know what, Gabe, you brought up the border issue. How would they handle something like the treasonous aspect of the border issue? Because the president's supposed to protect the country and its citizens, and he's let in multi-millions of individuals illegally into this country. He's allowed them in. That's a treasonous action. Why wouldn't that be prosecutable, if that's a word?
The way that I'm reading it is that Joe Biden is immune from prosecution for everything you just said.
Yeah, from criminal prosecution.
Criminal prosecution.
Yeah.
Now, however, I don't think this covers impeachment.
Correct. Right.
Because that's a different, I think that's a different category of things. So conceivably, Congress is supposed to be the only ones who are have that authority.
Yeah, it does not limit, a president can't say, you can't impeach me, I have immunity. That's not how that works.
No.
This has to do with the criminal judicial system.
Right.
All right, we're going to unpack this more throughout the morning here. By the way, just ahead, is even the mainstream media starting to feel the pressure on this gender ideology nonsense?
I hope so.
We're going to talk to Maria Bear about that from World Magazine at around 6:36.
Day, staring at the ceiling, making.
We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL.
All night, hearing voices telling me that I should get some sleep because tomorrow might be good.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Hold on, feeling like I'm headed for a breakdown.
Columbo and Katie.
Who could have predicted this? AOC is now filing impeachment articles against the Supreme Court. We'll discuss this with Red State's Susie Moore and Crane Durham at 2:25 on Tuesday.
Weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Back to hot today. A high of 93 this afternoon under mostly sunny skies. Some strong thunderstorms will break out to our northwest this evening and tonight, but they should be weakening as they move towards St. Louis overnight and early tomorrow. A warm night down to 77 for the low. But a new batch of potentially severe storms pops in the afternoon tomorrow near or just south of St. Louis. Steamy high tomorrow at 94. A couple of rounds of rain and storms, unfortunately likely on the 4th of July as well. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Tony Colombo here, reminding you to visit my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton before your next trip into the great outdoors. For decades, Bluff City Outdoors has covered all the needs for area fishermen, and they'll always have all the best bait, tackle, and gear for your next trip on the water. And now they cover all your bow hunting needs, including their state-of-the-art indoor archery range and techno hunt system, open every day for you to come shoot, or you can join a league. Follow Bluff City Outdoors on Facebook and learn more at bluffcityoutdoors.com.
Freedom isn't just a word, it should be a way of life for all Missourians. Wouldn't it be wonderful to live in a state where you're free from excessive taxes, regulations, and corporate handouts, and free to send your children to the school of your choice? That's why we at the Show Me Institute put together our 2024 Missouri Blueprint, a roadmap on how the state can progress to a bright future. The blueprint covers policy ideas from a Bill of Rights for parents to government transparency, school report cards, healthcare reform, and more. Our vision is for Missouri to be a place where entrepreneurs can pursue their dreams, parents are free to direct the education of their children, and a growing economy provides opportunities for all. Critical to achieving this vision is a government that understands the value of freedom in the lives and future of our people. Check out our 2024 Missouri Blueprint, moving Missouri forward at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Looking to get a new carpet, hardwood, or tile installed quickly and efficiently in your home? Look no further than Michael's Flooring Outlet. Michael's Flooring Outlet is a family-owned and operated business with a 30-year history of offering a diverse array of high-quality options in flooring. My parents and in-laws used Michael's to rip up their old carpet and replace it. They are both happy with the product and installation from Michael's. You can shop at one of their 3 locations in Creve Coeur, Darting Prairie, or St. Peters, or you can check them out at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
Conservative talk for St. Louis.
It's your patriotic right and duty. The government needs to step up and do its job.
This is News Talk STL.
It's well-balanced conversation.
News, analysis, opinion.
Hey, this is Larry Connors. Make sure you're listening later today at 6 o'clock on News Talk STL for my show, Larry Connors USA. Now, back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Such a lust for life. The circus comes to town.
Maybe I'm biased because I've been in the media for so many years. I've been a columnist, I've been a reporter, I've been an anchor, I've been a talk show host, but I'm biased towards the idea of studying communication. And I've said for years that if you can control words, you can eventually control conversations and you can eventually control thought and get the outcomes that you want. I know that sounds very drastic, but that can be used for good or for bad. It's all how we frame the discussions that we're going to have, whether they're going to be honest and healthy or dishonest and toxic. And that's why an article I found in World Magazine recently really caught my attention. I'm Mike Ferguson. That article is called "The Gaslighting Has Begun." And once again, I found it at World's website, and it was written by Maria Baer, who joins me right now. And Maria, this is in the large part about obviously the debate over the so-called transgender movement and laws and policy and things that are being done, particularly to children. But it's also about, as you put it, the gaslighting as well, because this is so much bigger than anything that's just a debate over medicine. Let me start with what's at stake here. Obviously, wildly divergent opinions on so-called transgenderism, but what we're talking about here is media and public figures changing how they say it, how they frame it, which for a lot of people means they're looking to change how we view it in the conversations.
Yeah, I think what we're starting to see is the tide is starting to turn globally, at least. I think the United States is a little bit behind actually on this. But in terms of the medical literature and the way, for example, the largest quote unquote gender clinic in the UK, the Tavistock Clinic, closed, I think it was last year, it might have been even the year before, closed down after a really damning report on the fact that they were ushering kids basically at unprecedented levels into hormone therapy and or puberty blockers, and ultimately a lot of times surgeries. These were kids that had gender dysphoria. They're of course calling them transgender kids and calling this transgender care or even gender affirming care. I completely agree with what you said about words being so important. This is an example because of course what they're actually doing is they're lying to kids and saying that you can change your gender by changing something physical about your body, which is not true. But that's what's at stake here, is that when we talk about these things as if they are actual medical care or as if they will even help the mental distress that people are experiencing when they feel uncomfortable in their body or they're dealing with gender dysphoria, when we talk about these medical interventions as if they actually help and are normal and or safe, then kids' lives and bodies are absolutely at risk. So is honestly, one of the things I think doesn't get talked about enough is a sort of collective trust in the institution of medicine. When I walk into a doctor's office, for example, and I get a form that says, please tell us your pronouns or tell us your gender, and I have multiple options, there's a really strange sort of cognitive dissonance that I have where I'm thinking, so this person is a medical professional. It's relevant to me in this moment that they acknowledge that there is a difference between men and women, and that men can't become women and women can't become men, because that's going to affect how they treat me physically, how they approach their medical practice. And the more we see big medical institutions embrace the sort of ideology around transgenderism, I think the more we're going to see a lessening of trust in those medical institutions, which has really wide implications and some scary ones.
Oh, yeah. And because we've got what's clearly a social contagion running out of control right now. But if somebody were to say, Maria, they say, okay, but the bigger issue is the ideological capture of medicine. Why are we fussing about the words that we're using? For instance, I completely agree. You say when the media reports gender affirming care, that's assuming it's a fact. And that's actually what it is, when in reality, it's the opposite of it. So why should we hold the line when it comes to the words and the language and the framing? Can we separate that out, or is that the front door to the bigger debate?
It's the front door. I mean, I think when you mentioned this piece in World, so one of the things I noticed about NPR's coverage in particular of this kind of changing landscape. So they actually did an interview with Dr. Hilary Cass. They did a 40-minute long form interview, which I thought was incredible. I did not expect NPR to cover this from the first, but I'm glad they did. So Dr. Hilary Cass in the UK authored the Cass Review. She and this large team did basically the first meta-analysis of all of the studies that exist so far on so-called transgender medicine and all of these interventions that we talked about, the puberty blockers, the hormone therapies, and then the surgeries, on young kids. And they studied them over the years that this has been available. And they studied the studies basically. And what they found was pretty damning. I think the direct quote from Dr. Cass, which is understating it in a very British way, is the quality of the studies was disappointingly poor. Basically, they found that there is no positive benefit to these therapies, and there is definitely uncertainty at best and actual harm at worst, because, of course, a lot of these kids go on to suffer from infertility or a loss of sexual function or sensation. And then, of course, the endless sort of infections and that can come from those kinds of surgeries. So, but what was interesting about NPR's coverage of this is I noticed throughout this whole 40-minute interview with Dr. Cass that the host of NPR never used the word transgender to describe the kids in Dr. Cass's study. And again, this was a study of the studies. So this is like every kid that has been studied in the medical literature so far. And I realized towards the end, so the only time that NPR used the word transgender was when she was quoting directly from WPATH, which is the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, or I think the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. So she would say it when other people were saying it, but she kept describing the kids that Dr. Cass studied as gender confused youth. And I thought, man, I've been listening to NPR for years, and every time they talk about this issue, they're always talking about transgender youth. And then they'll call, a young girl who says she's a boy, they'll call her a boy, and vice versa. And so I went back to listen to it, and I started thinking, I wonder if what they're going to try to do here, and this would make sense, is they're going to say, so the kids that Dr. Cass studied that had poor outcomes, where all these medical interventions did not help, and in fact, maybe even worsened their mental distress, those kids weren't really transgender. Those were, kids that just got caught up in this maelstrom, and we're really sorry about that. But over here are the real transgender kids. And these are the ones that are getting adequate care. This is why we have to have these clinics and we have to have all these interventions, because there's kids over here that maybe they just haven't been studied, or they've had the bad luck to not be included in these studies. But those are the real transgender kids. And I don't know if that's what NPR is going to try to do, but I do think that as the tide continues to shift, like I said, and more whistleblowers come out and more journalists are willing to ask the questions like, is this a good idea? Does it actually help? The media that for so long was ideologically captured, I like the way you put that, is going to have a really difficult decision in front of them. They're going to have to say, we were wrong, or they're going to say, we were just going along with the experts and we were duped in a very reasonable way, just like everybody else. And, that's unfortunate, but, we were not derelict in our duties at all. We were listening to all the right people. And I have a feeling that that's the direction that they're going to go. And this seemed like the start of something important for me, because again, even at one point, the NPR host talked about all of the young girls, like the huge spike in young girls that have been showing up at gender clinics. And I found myself asking, I didn't realize we were allowed to call them girls. In NPR reports before this, you have to call them boys because that's what they say they are. So I think we're starting to see a shift here.
Yeah, broadcasting, journalism, and medicine, the one thing that they're supposed to have in common is a quest for truth and accuracy and facts. And that's what seems to be going out the window, or at least debated. Okay, the article is called "The Gaslighting Has Begun." You can find it at World Magazine online as well. Maria Baer, also the host of the Colson Center for Christian Worldview podcast. Tell me about that. Where do we find your work?
Yes, thank you. So the show is called Breakpoint this week. If you search for the word Breakpoint wherever you get your podcasts, it should come up, and that is done through the Colson Center for Christian Worldview. And then I'm also just a freelance writer and reporter. I do some work for Christianity Today, as well as World, as you mentioned, and some other places. You can find my work at mariaebaer, BAER.com. And I also have a Substack newsletter just at mariabaer.substack.com.
All right, Maria, thank you so much for the conversation on this. These things are just way too important to let it be swept under the rug or with trends. So thank you for drawing attention to it.
Mike, thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Okay, I really appreciate Maria, both in that article. Once again, The Gaslighting Has Begun, and you can find that at World Magazine. Just look them up on social media or online. But just the fact of the matter is, spitting truth, okay? The reality is, and she said this early on in that conversation, is even some of those European countries, which are farther to the left than the United States is and have been for generations, they're seeing the errors and they are pulling back and shutting these things down, especially when it comes to children. Lives are at stake. We cannot let up the pressure on lawmakers, on, anybody else. And especially with media, we need to call them out when they misframe and just lie about what's actually happening. Got some thoughts on it? Let's talk. Whether you agree or disagree, I'm open to the conversation. Let's talk at 314-912-1019. This is 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Such a lust for life. The circus comes to town. We are a hungry world.
If you have a phone, you have a radio. Download the News Talk STL app and listen anytime, anywhere.
Attention homeowners and businesses. AMF Electric has been your trusted partner since 1985. For your home, our residential experts treat every project with the utmost care and importance. From simple repairs to complete renovations, we've got you covered. Businesses, our commercial team handles all types of construction with expertise and efficiency. Even clients from out of state request our top-notch services. Available 24/7. We're just a call away at 314-647-4066 or amfelectric.com.
Jewels on Hampton and St. Louis Hills is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches on site. Jewels on Hampton is a premier jeweler featuring Alvanza's jewel art designs with an exquisite selection of diamonds, semi-precious stone jewelry, and vintage watches. Their expert design team can restyle your jewelry to today's contemporary style. They also do jewelry and watch repair. Need extra cash? Jewels on Hampton is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches. Bring in your collectibles and clocks and sports memorabilia and figurines too. Jewels on Hampton, 4506 Hampton, just 3 blocks south of Chippewa, and jewelsonhampton.com. Call them at 314-752-5000, 314-752-5000, and jewelsonhampton.com. Jewels on Hampton.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Love the music you hear on the morning show? Check out Mike's morning music playlist at newstalkstl.com.
So easy in the morning sun when love was in season. I was on the run.
Wake up, America. It all worked out.
They got all the news.
The morning news dump.
All right, presidents cannot be prosecuted for that.
Right.
But they could possibly be prosecuted for that.
Right.
How about for this?
Maybe.
Okay.
Depending on the situation.
All right.
Zodiac sign at the sky at the time. Maybe. We'll see. All right. Gas getting even more expensive in the metro area. You can thank government for that. And one of the region's best known malls is about to meet the wrecking ball.
Mm-hmm.
Going to happen. All right. 6:52 here. Gabe's here. Stell's here. I'm Mike. Okay. Supreme Court has ruled that former presidents are entitled to some immunity from prosecution.
In a historic 6-3 ruling, justices said former presidents have absolute immunity for official acts, but no immunity for unofficial acts. And the High Court is sending Donald Trump's immunity case back to a lower court to figure out how it applies to the former president. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote that the president is not above the law, but Congress may not criminalize the president's conduct in carrying out constitutional responsibilities. The immediate outcome means an extended delay in the Trump matter and the unlikelihood that a trial could be held before the November presidential election. Greg Clugston, Washington.
And of course, let's get to the reactions. Part of this, President Biden making a statement in reaction to that Supreme Court ruling.
Here's what she said. She said, in every use of official power, the president is now a king above the law. With fear for our democracy, I dissent. End of quote. So should the American people dissent. I dissent.
And the president was quoting the dissenting opinion of Justice Sonia Sotomayor. Senator John Kennedy was asked about this as well. He was on Fox last night, and he was on The Story with Martha McCallum.
The Constitution and common sense demonstrate that the Justice Department can't prosecute a president, not criminally, for an official act. It can for a personal act.
Now, the court did not dismiss the indictment against Donald Trump, but increased the likelihood that any trial in this case is not going to happen before the election, and essentially sent the case back to the criminal case itself,
right,
back to a lower court to say, here are the rules. Here's what is allowed to be prosecuted. Here is what is not based on these principles. You now have to decide if Jack Smith's charges against Donald Trump meet the standard to be prosecuted or not.
Right. Yeah. And it's a very interesting ruling. I think we're going to be talking about it for a long time, but there are a lot of lawyers who are going to be arguing about it and probably have divergent opinions on the thing. I think Sotomayor's dissent, though, kind of reads a little ragey to me. and obviously, because there is necessarily a constitutional limit on the powers of the executive and the duties of the executive, that's the law under which the president still operates.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole above the law thing is absolutely a misnomer.
And can I also point out, she says she fears for our democracy.
Yeah.
We're a republic, madam. justice.
It actually says so in the Constitution that you're supposed to be ruling on today.
Yeah. Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
FYI.
But you're the expert. Okay. Need to fill up the tank. I need to fill up the tank. I'm down to like 6 miles left on my, but you better do it on the Missouri side of the region. As of Monday, January 1st, Illinois now has the second highest gas tax in the nation at 47 cents per gallon. The increase takes this tax up 2 cents per gallon. That's part of J.B. Pritzker's Rebuild Illinois Tax and Revenue Plan. Get this, before 2019, here's how much J.B. Pritzker and the Democrats in the Illinois legislature have raised the price of gas. Before 2019, Illinois' gas tax was 19 cents per gallon. It is now 47. California has the highest gas tax at 60 cents per gallon. Missouri's gas tax actually also went up yesterday from 24.5 cents per gallon to 27.5 cents per gallon. That's part of that gas tax that was approved back in 2021 or whatever it was, that is going to step things up at 2 or 3 cents per year up through 2025. All right. Missouri Governor Mike Parson put his veto pen to work this week, cutting $1 billion out of the budget approved by lawmakers. Among the cuts, $6 million to pay for Missouri National Guard troops at the southern border. He is leaving another $2 million in that budget. $150 million of the funds set aside to expand I-44, and $500 million, so $500 million that were set aside to renovate the state capitol building. They're still going to renovate the capitol building. There's just no work planned in this coming year. So the governor says, well, we're not setting aside the money if you're not going to do the work this year. Remaining state budget, though, is still over $50 billion for this fiscal year.
Yeah, that's why I was hoping for a few more cuts than that. But some cuts are better than no cuts, I suppose.
It's $1 billion in cuts.
Yeah.
I mean, still bloated spending. All right, the end is near for the Chesterfield Mall. The official closing date will be August 31st, and demolition is scheduled to begin October 15th. What do you think? On August 30th and 31st, you think the Chesterfield Mall will be crowded again for just a day or two?
Just a day.
Maybe.
Just a watch.
Maybe. The mall is going to be replaced with a $2 billion mixed-use development that's going to include retail space, restaurants, bars, things like that, and apartments.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote quality Christ-centered K-12 education nationwide.
Hi, this is Chris Stegall with the Herzog Foundation. We offer a wide variety of resources relevant to today's families, including a free online publication called The Lion. The lion is one of God's most majestic creatures, symbolizing strength and courage. Named for its attributes, the Lion publication carries articles covering a wide range of topics facing American families and culture, especially related to the education of children. The Lion can be found online at readlion.com. That's READ lion.com.
Sign up for The Lion at readlion.com and find dozens of must-read articles published every day. Visit readlion.com and subscribe for the weekly and daily digests so you never miss an article. Readlion.com. That's readlion.com.
Caring for a loved one is stressful. It's an emotional time, and we want our loved ones to get the quality of care they deserve. But the cost of long-term care is expensive. In the St. Louis area, it could be $60,000, $70,000, or even over $100,000. Can your savings handle this added expense? Fortunately, News Talk STL listeners have an expert right here. Financial strategist Chris Cooper of Serenity Wealth Management shows families tax-efficient strategies to fund care needs. Whether planning in advance, have health concerns, or living in a care community today, solutions exist to fund the quality of care you deserve.
Hi, I'm Chris Cooper, and I'd love to send you a free copy of my new book. You'll learn about strategies to empower you and your family, protect your savings, and make sure your loved ones get the quality of care they deserve.
Visit SerenityLTC.com. That's SerenityLTC.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNVS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. The Supreme Court has codified what has been a long-time understanding that presidents are immune from prosecution for any official actions they take while they're in office. Two very different reactions to that decision. President Biden condemns a 6-3 ruling, while former President Trump calls it a win for democracy. And speaking of President Biden, his political operatives working hard to keep the campaign from going off the rails.
The Biden campaign is trying to reset after the debate and reassure anxious state officials, donors, and rank-and-file members. At the White House, the public schedule is a return to business as usual. Over the next few days, the president will get a hurricane weather briefing, attend a fundraiser, host a Medal of Honor ceremony, and celebrate the 4th of July with military families. But behind the scenes, the Biden team is still dealing with many supporters who want the president to step aside.
White House correspondent Greg Clugston. An extremely powerful hurricane continues to ravage the islands of the Caribbean.
Barrow is located a few hundred miles south of Puerto Rico. Maximum winds are up to 165 miles per hour. It's a Category 5 hurricane. Moving to the west-northwest at 22 miles per hour.
National Hurricane Center's Eric Blake.
Its next main target is the island of Jamaica. We expect the weather to go downhill there on Wednesday.
And after that, Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula could take a hit. People on the Texas Gulf Coast being advised to keep an eye on the storm's progress, just in case. Israel not slowing down in its all-out drive to crush Hamas in Gaza. The Israeli military urges Palestinian civilians to clear out of the southern Gaza city of Khan Yunis, suggesting another ground operation could be in the offing in Gaza's second-largest city. Checking Wall Street, the Dow futures down 156 points. NASDAQ futures off 133. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions for free. Call now and find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-504-8790. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell everyone listening who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me here. It's always nice to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. 800-504-8790. You'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now. 800-504-8790.
Advertisement spot
from the Michael's Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Back to hot today. A high of 93 this afternoon under mostly sunny skies. Some strong thunderstorms will break out to our northwest this evening and tonight, but they should be weakening as they move towards St. Louis overnight and early tomorrow. A warm night down to 77 for the low, but a new batch of potentially severe storms pops in the afternoon tomorrow near or just south of St. Louis. Steamy high tomorrow at 94. A couple of rounds of rain and storms, unfortunately likely on the 4th of July as well. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
How'd you like to eliminate your expensive cable bill forever or get new satellite internet where cable can't go? Well, now you can have affordable satellite internet service for a few dollars a day. All you need is a mini satellite installed, and you can have unlimited internet connections wirelessly in your home or office. And no cable boxes means unlimited connections and no clutter. You can surf the internet or stream any of your favorite television services with no cable. And the best part is, satellite internet service costs only a few dollars a day for your entire home. Yes, fast internet to surf or stream television for a few bucks a day. Call now for free details and learn how to drop your expensive cable bill.
800-696-2871. 800-696-2871. 800-696-2871. That's 800-696-2871.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com. Mike Ferguson.
You play ball like a girl!
Gabe Pfeiffer.
I triple thought stereo!
Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice
drain the swamp, and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up, this is your cousin Bob.
All right, how do we rein in an out-of-control executive branch? An executive. No, I'm not talking about Donald Trump. Tame your TDS for a minute, there, Democrats.
Take it easy.
I'm talking about Sam Page this time around.
Mm-hmm.
All right, got a few things to get caught up on locally, and then let's talk presidential immunity at 7:20. It's one of those things that it's everywhere.
Yes, absolutely.
So I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to weigh in on that. So you can do that on social media. By the way, if you're watching on social media, we're checking on the Facebook thing. We're trying to get in there. Katie's trying to work her magic just to let everybody know what's happening here is I don't think Facebook is actually trying to suppress us this time.
No, this isn't Facebook.
No, this is not Facebook. Somebody has been trying to attack News Talk STL's Facebook page over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, we're
actually,
kind of under a cyber siege here.
Yeah, and so far Facebook's actually, but what they've kind of locked down the page in defense of that, against that. So we're trying to figure that out there. But
somebody posted something in Indonesian. You don't think it's that guy, do you?
No.
So yeah, so we're trying to get that. But in the meantime, we are on Rumble, and a lot of people are commenting and chatting on Rumble. Hi to everybody. By the way, we talked about the gas prices in the news dump a little bit ago. DMCCB says a friend sent a picture of a gas price in LA, $7.65.
Wow,
what the actual crap is
that
going on?
Would make me want to start cussing.
Oh gosh, man,
Wow.
$7.
You know, when we were up in Chicago a couple of weeks ago, it was $5.65 in downtown Chicago, which I realize is a little bit more than it is in the suburbs. But even in the burbs, it was $4.50, $4.60, and some of them were around $4.20. But $5.65, whoa!
All right, let's talk about this presidential immunity thing at 7:20. Is it a matter of protecting the office and the president, or putting one person above the law? Those are the accusations. I want to know what you think. Gabe, just have some fun. Let's look up some of the local leftists on social media and get their responses to that.
I'm going to check them out.
But I've got a question on social media as well, on Rumble in particular. Did the Supreme Court get it right? Do you agree? Should the president be immune from criminal prosecution, at least to some extent? So tell me what you think on that. All right, 7:08 right now. So when it comes to reining in an out-of-control executive, we've got a really good example of that with Sam Page. County Councilman Mark Harder joins us right now. And Mark, hey, good chat with you again here. Appreciate you being on once again. So let me start with all of this kind of stuff we've been dealing with Sam Page over the last years. You've got a proposal. You mentioned it a week or two ago regarding changing the county charter, rather, and moving to a county manager form of government. A lot of cities have this form of government. There's a mayor, there's a board of aldermen or a city council, and then there's a city manager who runs a lot of the day-to-day operations. How would your proposal look if that were to be implemented? Then we'll get the update on where that discussion is.
Sure. Good morning, guys. Yes, so thanks for having me on. What my proposal will do is create a county manager position, and this will be a person that's kind of like in between the council and the county executive, and it would handle all the day-to-day operations, making sure the street lights get fixed and the potholes get fixed and things like that, and make sure the government is doing the right thing and running efficiently. The purpose of it would take away the politics of the day-to-day operations of the county. Right now, Sam Page appoints all the department heads and deputies and things like that, all the way down. And these people are the people that are responsible for implementing anything the council says going forward. But the issue is that they are under the control of the county executive. So what we're finding, and at least recently, is that if the county executive doesn't like what the county council passes, like the senior tax freeze, things like that, he can tell his department heads to just sit on whatever needs to be implemented and wait it out or do whatever, and so it goes in a desk drawer, and then we don't have a senior tax freeze on time. So this type of government will hopefully take away some of that control, and it gives the council a little bit more control over getting things done. So in other words, if the county manager doesn't do their job, he or she can come before the council and we can say, hey, why didn't you implement what we just sent you, to get done? And then he'd have to answer to us. Right now, Page's people don't even show up for meetings for us because they report to him. So it just changes things and balances the bureaucracy a little bit better. And like you said, many of the municipalities in the areas have this form of government, and things work quite well in many of these places because of the professional management.
Okay, so a couple things. One, they may not be showing up, but at least they're not flipping you off anymore. But secondly, the other question is, okay, obviously we know that Sam Page is abusing the authority of the office, and everything you're describing is well documented. Is there any concern that this is a permanent solution to a temporary problem, and that the problem is Sam Page as opposed to the structure of government itself? I suspect somebody's going to make that argument, so I just want to get out ahead and put that out there for you.
They may, but other county executives have abused this setup before. So it's more of a function of, hey, it's on the books, it's in our charter, I'll use it the way they think they can use it to their benefit. So by changing this, which will require a charter change, and the people of St. Louis County will have to vote on it, it instills a new form of government, but not that much different. But it sets up the bureaucracy different so that things can get done and not be stagnated because of politics or because somebody doesn't want to do something.
Good morning, Mark. Gabe Pfeiffer here. And speaking of things being stagnated, I wanted to talk about the dragging of the feet by the executive on the whole senior property tax freeze thing. How is the fight for actually getting that done going?
Well, it's funny you should say that. So a week ago, last week, I talked at the end of the meeting. You can watch it on our recorded meetings. So I got fed up with getting these emails and phone calls from people saying, hey, where's the tax freeze? Where's my paperwork? Where can I fill this out? Blah, blah, blah. And we keep telling them, well, it's all because of the bureaucracy of St. Louis County and the slow walk that's going on with this program. And so I thought, at the end of the meeting, the Department of Revenue director was there in the meeting. And so I called him up to the podium, and he did not know that I was going to call him up. So it was like dead man walking as he was moving from the back of the room to the front of the room. But he gets up to the front. And so I started asking questions. I said, where are we with the paperwork? Where are we with the software? What about the money we've given you to spend? And it was no, all the way down the line. They have not spent the money. They have not set up the software. They do not have the legal forms ready. They've just been sitting on this stuff for over a year. And so I wanted to get him on video, and people can go and listen to him. He's the problem. His name is Smee, S-M-E-E. And he's the head of the Department of Revenue. And I'm sure somebody is telling him, sit on this thing, until we wear him down or who knows what. But they've had a year to get this thing implemented, and they have done nothing. He's acting like they're doing something, but there's nothing substantial has been done. So I've got him on video, and I'm going to be sending that around to when people ask, why is this not, working?
Good morning, Mark. Stal is here. During the show this morning, we've commented about the upcoming demolition of Chesterfield Mall, and we were just wondering what your thoughts are regarding the mall's including Crestwood and Jamestown and Northwest Plaza, where the property has been changed into like a mixed-use redevelopment area. What are your thoughts regarding that?
Oh, I think it's a great project. It'll be a great project for Chesterfield. It'll be a great project for the region. Malls are going away, all across the country. It isn't just a St. Louis thing. That's not the way people shop anymore. And everybody shops online or in a small, strip center type shopping center. So all across the country, we got to find new uses for these type of monstrosities. And this project in Chesterfield will be a great example of that. It will be mixed use. It will be some retail. It'll be a lot of residential, both single family and apartment type condos. There'll be some business use there, some office buildings. So you'll have a downtown, they're calling it downtown Chesterfield type of feel to it. So yeah, I welcome it. I think it'll be a great addition. It's a great location. I'm just, sorry it didn't happen years ago, and we've had to sit with almost an empty mall for probably close to 10 years in that location. So we'll see more and more of this across the country, I believe, and it will be new uses for it. Jamestown Mall now is all gone, finally, and that is, that went too far and has been empty for probably close to 10 years. And it took that long to just, finance it and to tear it down. And now it's just a big open lot, which is a lot nicer than it was. But now they've got to find a new use for that huge piece of property up there.
I'm just saying is that when the record store in the Orange Julius leaves, knock it down. Just
See, I knew you were disappointed. Where are you going to buy your cassettes
That's
now?
right. Where am I going to find my cassettes? We're visiting with Mark Harder from the St. Louis County Council. Okay, well, let me just do one quick follow-up, Mark, because we're a little heavy on the segment here. And that has to do with, Sam Page offering a state representative, hey, I'll give you a job if you will get out of this race and not run for a county council seat. So basically trying to manipulate who's going to be on the ballot in order to manipulate who's on the Senate or on the council rather. Do we know if this is blatantly illegal, or is this something that should be investigated either by election authorities or maybe even, criminal prosecution? I mean, where do we stand with that discussion?
Well, we have nothing to do with that. I mean, the people involved there, from what I've been told, they've filed complaints with the federal government, and that has to be investigated. So we won't find this out for probably a long time, is the way the federal government works. But I think it definitely needs to be investigated. I don't know the way that it was done, if it was fully illegal, but it sure smells like it, and it doesn't pass the smell test to me. So I hope they look into it, and I hope people are interviewed, and I hope that we get some kind of resolution that just doesn't just fade away. But that's the sliminess that goes on in this government, and that's something we've got to figure out to find somebody to run against Mr. Page in 2 years. So
yeah,
to start the search should start today.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that on Rumble. Amy just said the fact that Sam Page got reelected says something about St. Louis County.
Yeah, it does.
There was a debacle on the Republican side, but yeah, I mean, the most hated guy in the county got reelected or got elected. He had been appointed. So yeah, absolutely. We've got to be thinking towards that election as it stands. All right, Mark, appreciate you being on. You are running for state senate. Let's put the website out there real quick. People want to keep up and get to know you more.
Yes, it's Mark Farr, F-O-R, Missouri.com. You can go on there, make a donation. You can read about me. I've got testimonials. I've got some videos and pictures. And we're out knocking doors for the whole month of July. And we've got yard signs. If you want a yard sign, you can communicate through the website, and we'll get you a yard sign.
All right, Mark, good to talk to you again. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
All right, let's talk about the executive on the national level. Supreme Court says, yep, there is some presidential immunity that applies. That's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where does that start and end? Well, they didn't quite decide all of that. So we'll give you the update. Get your thoughts on that right around 7:23 here on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
You have a soul so dark, it is no more.
This is News Talk STL at 101.9 94.1 99.1 HD3 and newstalkstl.com.
I've had enough of this. Turn my eyes.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Before you blow us all away.
The Vic Borselli Show.
Well, the Chevron decision is now out. What does it mean? We'll talk to the executive director of the CO2 Coalition, Gregory Wrightstone, Tuesday at 9:41.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Dreaming of upgrading your outdoor space? STL FenceWorks is the choice for you. Our skilled craftsmen build custom fences from modern vinyl to classic ornamental, fitting your style and budget. Elevate your outdoor living with low-maintenance decks designed to relax and entertain. We choose only top-quality American-made materials, ensuring your project is built to last. Your satisfaction is our passion. With over 50 years of experience, custom designs, and exceptional customer service, visit stlfenceworks.com today.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Are you being audited or investigated? Has the IRS sent you a letter demanding payment? You may not owe what they claim. Make this free call to the tax doctor now. Let them negotiate with the IRS on your behalf.
800-240-4586. 800-240-4586. That's 800-240-4586.
And then the media.
101.9 and 94.1.
They lying about what's going on in America. They lying about it.
News Talk STL.
Hello, morning people. Tony Colombo and Katie Fitzpatrick here.
Thanks for listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning here on News Talk STL. And don't forget to join us today at 2 for Colombo and Katie.
See you then.
You ever look at your Facebook memories? Mine just popped up. I made a theological dad joke on this day in history, 2021. Do you want to hear it?
I kind of don't, but okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You really probably don't. So here's what I wrote in 2021.
Okay.
I asked my Calvinist neighbor not to set off so many fireworks this 4th of July. He said he has no choice. It's pre-detonation.
Oh my gosh. That's such a dad joke.
I don't know where I came up with that one. All right.
Well, it actually makes sense. As a preacher's kid, it makes sense that you would have a Christianese dad joke.
Oh, I retweeted that. I originally wrote that in 2014. That's
Oh, wow.
where that came from.
Okay.
And I just reposted it 3 years ago.
You should repost it again. It's just every few years you should just renew your Christian dad jokeness. Just do it.
So
Own it.
I apologize to everybody. And if you're not up on the theological terms and everything, you're probably avoiding a headache on that one.
It's fine.
When we say predestination, pre-detonation,
Pre-detonation. Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Okay. I apologize. All right. So exactly what is Donald Trump immune from when it comes to criminal prosecution? Okay. Here's the thing is there's a lot of, conservative pundits, especially some of the young ones who don't know squat, running around and they're like, he's been given complete immunity. No, he has not. Okay. So let's kind of parse through that. And at 8:05, we're going to talk to Mike O'Neill from the Landmark Legal Foundation to go through what little more in detail from the lawyer's perspective on this. All right. 7:25 right now, 314-912-1019. By the way, if you haven't already, check out the News Talk STL app. Once again, free, download it. Carry us anywhere you want. Take us anywhere you want with it.
All right. Is the immunity ruling about Donald Trump or is it about the presidency? Let me first ask that question, because I think, guys, we've got some chronic short-term thinking happening right now. And everything right now, especially on the left, it's like, I can't believe they're going to let Donald Trump get away with whatever.
Right.
But is the ruling about Donald Trump or is it about the presidency?
Right. And as far as I'm concerned, it's about the presidency and kind of setting the bar, setting the standard for what it means for the president to be criminally prosecuted. Because here's kind of where this all started. Donald Trump was the first president or past president, former president ever to be criminally prosecuted.
Right.
Like, so then that sets a precedent. Now, of course, because it is a precedent setting move, now all bets are off. Like, okay, well, how does this happen? And determining the parameters by which it happened is necessary, because we've never done this before. So that's kind of how we got here, and determining if the Supreme Court's decision was right is now kind of the next thing that we're going to be talking about, probably for the next couple days,
or even how it applies,
to the specific case. Sure.
So President Biden making a statement, kind of denouncing the ruling. Here's part of what he had to say.
For all practical purposes, today's decision almost certainly means that there are virtually no limits on what a president can do. This is a fundamentally new principle, and it's a dangerous precedent, because the power of the office will no longer be constrained by the law, even including the Supreme Court of the United States.
Okay, so
what?
Yeah, okay, so here's what they ruled, essentially. And again, we're going to get more detail from this at 8:05. I really encourage you to be here at 8:05 and send me your questions for Mike O'Neill from Landmark Legal Foundation.
Yes,
8:05.
Absolutely.
Okay, so basically, the Supreme Court says is if the action is under the scope of the executive authority, of the executive power, then it is immune from prosecution.
Right.
If it's within that scope.
Right.
If the president does something outside of that scope, or when he's not in office, then he can be prosecuted.
Right. Yeah, I can actually read the portion of it. It's a very short paragraph. Held under our constitutional structure of separated powers, the nature of presidential power entitles a former president to absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for, here's the key portion, actions within his conclusive and preclusive constitutional authority, and he is entitled to at least presumptive immunity for prosecution for all his official acts. So there's actually a separation between conclusive and preclusive constitutional authority and official acts. And then in this last sentence, there is no immunity for unofficial acts.
Right. And so the argument would be then, for instance, with Donald Trump, and this all comes from the federal criminal case against Trump in Washington, D.C. This has nothing to do with the New York case. This is the Washington, D.C. case where Jack Smith is trying to prosecute him for the January 6th riots,
right?
Basically. And the argument now will be the lower courts have been sent the case back saying, here's our ruling. You now have to decide if any of these charges are within that scope or outside of that scope.
Right. Here's the standard. Now rule accordingly.
Yeah. Senator Eric Schmidt was on Larry Kudlow on Fox Business yesterday, talking about what he thinks this means for all presidents, future and past.
I mean, it's a victory for the Constitution and the rule of law. It was, I think most legal scholars agree that this is probably where the Supreme Court would land or should land, making sure the president and a robust executive has this level of independence and immunity for official acts.
That's actually, I mean, honestly, if you go back and you roll back the tape, I actually presumed that this was going to be close to what the Supreme Court was going to do. That they were going to make the parameter, they were going to set the parameters by which immunity exists for the president within certain bounds, and those bounds would then constitute a new standard. It sounds about right to me. I mean, I do have some trepidations. I'm definitely going to ask Mike O'Neill for his interpretation of some of these things, to address my concerns. And certainly, if you have concerns about how this could be used, let's say, by a rogue Biden administration in his last few days here, or some future not so great candidate you didn't vote
President Gavin Newsom.
Oh gosh,
or somebody like that.
Oh,
you know,
don't hurt my heart. But
don't use that language.
Take it easy there,
How
buddy.
dare you?
How dare you?
Fine, a President Mitt Romney,
Oh, no.
whatever.
Don't use that language.
Don't use that language either. But if you have concerns about how that immunity might be used by those sort of presidents, and certainly, send us a message via social media or wherever, and we'll see if Mike can answer those questions.
Yep. All right. 314-912-1019. Did the Supreme Court get it right? Did they get it wrong? And this is one of those where, hey, friends on the left, I'm really curious what you think about this. I'm going to tell you, I've got some mixed feelings on it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like you, Gabe. I think that the Supreme Court mostly got it right.
Sure.
But I do have some worries that at some point, because we're not becoming more virtuous in our politics, okay?
Right.
We're just not. At some point, I do worry that we're going to throw everything into, well, they were the president at the time, therefore everything is immune, and we're not going to be able to siphon out criminal activity, even if it's while they were in office.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're done dealing with this as a country. It may be 10 or 20 years before we put it back before the Supreme Court, but I don't think we're done with it. Just my guess.
Well, and you got to remember, every future possible criminal case or attempt to is going to test this the limits of this ruling.
Right. It would be nice if we just had a whole bunch of people as president who didn't
do criminal things.
Didn't do criminal things, but I that's how it goes. All right, 314-912-1019. Also, all right, I really didn't want to talk about this because frankly, I have gray hair and I'm getting older, and I don't want to talk about the stupid stuff on like a lot of social media.
Mm-hmm.
But there are two completely made up words that you cannot avoid on social media right now. And I think it is a bigger reflection on some of us than we think. And matter of fact, I'm looking at the Rumble. All right, everybody who's listening on Rumble right now, or Facebook right now, or Twitter right now, we're going to the information segment. We're going to get some commentary here. But what two made up words am I talking about? You tell me. I bet you almost everybody knows.
You've heard them recently.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL.
I am true in the grounds where I go. I work late where I'm free from the phone.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I know, but who wants to live forever, babe? You treat your mouth as if it's heaven's gate.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Back to hot today, a high of 93 this afternoon under mostly sunny skies. Some strong thunderstorms will break out to our northwest this evening and tonight, but they should be weakening as they move towards St. Louis overnight and early tomorrow. A warm night down to 77 for the low, but a new batch of potentially severe storms pops in the afternoon tomorrow near or just south of St. Louis. Steamy high tomorrow at 94. A couple of rounds of rain and storms, unfortunately likely on the 4th of July as well. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
To all our incredible supporters, we at the David Dorn Foundation say thank you. Your 5-star online reviews that you recently posted are beacons of encouragement on our mission to assist first responders. And a shout out to Steve Katraba, who reviewed us with these powerful words. The Dorn Foundation continues to fill a need in the public safety community and thereby to the public. Steve, your words are more than a review. They show the impact we're making for first responders. To read more strong reviews, Google the Dorn Foundation now.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
Last September, DHS Secretary Mayorkas established a Homeland Intelligence Experts Group. What was it? Who was on it? What did it do? Documents uncovered by America First Legal found this group was supposed to provide expert analysis on terrorism. The board included former CIA Director Brennan, former Department of National Intel Clapper, and both of them were among the 50 former Intel operatives that signed the letter that the Hunter Biden laptop was just Russian information. Well, these same experts claim that terrorists were likely supporters of President Trump. They also declared our nation might be worried about anyone who served in the military or might be religious. That's right. They stated specifically Dive into indicators of extremist and terrorism. You might find they had military or religious experiences. Well, the board has now been disbanded. It's done. But you have to keep in mind the suspicion being raised about former military or anyone religious or any Trump supporter would be among our nation's terrorists. That is not easily forgotten. And the other point, nor should it be easily forgotten.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
Oh, Adam, you are so romantic. And I love the kitchen you found with all these great crumbs.
Yeah, baby. Only the finest crumbs in the kitchen for my favorite aunt. Oh, no. It's the pest control company again with those green wheels. They always kill the mood.
This is Derek, the owner of All Solutions Pest Control. Give us a call today at 636-486-7888. We'd love to help you out. Learn more about our special $67 offer. You can visit us online at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
Liberal mega donors are always looking for new rhinos to do their bidding. And with Adam Schnelting, they found their new star. Adam Schnelting has already backed their radical plan to defund our police. And he skipped countless important conservative votes. Skipped a vote to protect kids from sexually explicit materials in school. And skipped a vote to protect churches from junk lawsuits. It's no wonder Adam Schnelting is bankrolled by Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden's top funders. Bill Cristofanelli is the only leader we can trust to protect our conservative priorities. When radicals tried to defund the police, Bill Cristofanelli passed record funding from Missouri's law enforcement. When Joe Biden left our southern border wide open, conservative Bill Cristofanelli banned sanctuary cities and voted to send Missouri National Guard troops to secure the border. Vote Bill Cristofanelli, the proven conservative, for state senate.
Gladius PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising, paid for by Gladius PAC, and is not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
In the fast-paced world of digital marketing, making connections is a challenge for any business. But what if we told you there is a place where connections aren't just made, they're grown? Meet 2060 Digital, your premier Google partner and top-tier digital agency. We don't just follow trends, we set them. At 2060 Digital, we're not just another agency, we're your strategic partner. We dive deep into your challenges and develop solutions that drive measurable outcomes. Ready to elevate your digital presence with campaigns that connect? Google 2060 Digital today.
What happens next?
Everything we have to do with, look, if
happens right here.
We finally beat Medicare.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hi, it's Vic Porcelli.
And Ken.
Hi, Ken.
Hey, Vic.
Ken and I are on every Monday through Friday, 9 to 11, right here on News Talk STL. Right now, you're listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning on 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Whoosh, my morning people.
Maybe this is the get off my lawn segment. I mean, I get it. I'm in my early 50s, but I don't feel like I'm the old crotchety guy just yet.
Yeah.
That's a life goal. I'm going to get there.
Let me handle that for you.
That's right.
There you go.
But can we talk about how dumb pop culture is right now?
Yes.
Okay. How about this? Are we normalizing things that still should be shame based?
Oh gosh, yeah. We've been doing that for ages.
Yes. Okay. So, by the way, don't forget News Talk STL. We have a whole bunch of podcasts out there. Basically, if it's on the air, it goes into a podcast, and we are expanding our podcast menu to things that are just bonus content that you're not going to hear on the air. So, go to, whatever platform you're on, whatever podcast store you're on, we're there. Just, please go and hit the subscribe, and you can actually even just subscribe to individual shows. So you can subscribe to this show, or you can subscribe to Chris and Tim's show, Larry Connors, you name it, it's out there. You can do it here. Okay, so we create, and I'm going to use air quotes here, celebrities for just awful reasons, and it happens really fast.
Yes.
I'm actually surprised. I asked the question, I'm like, okay, which two made up words am I talking about that you can't get away from on social media? So far, I've got a whole bunch of other stuff, but I haven't gotten these. I got a lot of political stuff here.
Okay, so they've managed to stay
They
immune,
managed
I
to
guess,
stay, yeah.
from the craziness.
Somebody just got it. Yeah, somebody
there,
just got it.
There
All
it
right.
is.
All right. I mean, if I say, because I asked you the question, I didn't even finish the question. You knew what I was going for a little bit ago.
Yes, I do.
I said, what are the 2 made-up words that you cannot escape on social media right now?
Hawk to it.
Yes. Okay. Have you seen this still?
Sadly, yes,
Yeah,
I have.
okay.
Yeah, I tried to
even-
avoid it and I couldn't avoid it.
Even Stell knows.
That's the point.
Yeah,
And
man.
you're not on Twitter, which I think is where it is mostly. Of course, I've seen it on the Facebook Reels.
yeah,
and
showing up on
Instagram.
Facebook.
It's just everywhere.
It's expanded
Okay,
everywhere. yeah.
so, and I'm gonna just as politely as I can explain.
Oh,
this,
geez.
because everybody
Get ready
is
with the
saying
dump
this.
button.
No, I know I'm doing it.
Okay.
I'm a trained professional. So this moderately attractive girl, she's being interviewed out on some nightlife scene, and
she is drunk as a skunk.
I
by
was
the
gonna
way.
say she's tossed a few back, and a guy says, "What is one thing that drives guys wild
in bed?"
And she comes up with those words as a way of describing her skill set in pleasing whatever guy she happens to be in bed with at
Right,
the time. I think that's as much as I can do on the radio.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
And so she I just read another one. Go to Rumble. That's what
we,
is.
we
Okay,
can't
all right,
talk.
so
we
here-
can't say these things, guys.
but this was pretty funny. Okay, so and immediately she's like being brought up on concert stages with big stars. Podcasts want to interview her. There were rumors about the Hawk Tua girl. And it's funny because I'm seeing people talk about, Hawk Tua. And I'm like, do you know what that means? And they don't. They just know it's the trendy thing.
Yeah.
But now she has a merchandise deal.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, she sold like $65,000 worth of Hawk Tua. And if you're wearing a Hawk Tua hat, or a sweatshirt, you realize what you're basically saying is, I'm a skank.
Yeah,
that's essentially what you're saying.
It's a really gross reference. It really is. And I saw a little clip of her just smiling, with
Right.
some guy, I guess, who's selling merch, and she's wearing a hat, Hawk Tua 24.
Right.
So there you go.
I saw that she sold, like, in the first week or so, she sold like $65,000 worth of stuff.
Yeah.
Now that means it's probably a drop ship thing, I would
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
So she probably made about $6,000, $7,000.
Yeah.
So most of that is the drop ship and the merch and stuff. But still, that's a lot of money for somebody who, until up until now, nobody ever seen. She was just another blonde bebopping around there.
She was like she's a factory worker or something, right?
Because she was, and again, I tried to avoid this because there were all these rumors. Who's the Hawk Tua girl? And my
Right.
answer was, who freaking cares?
Yeah, that's
But
the right
there was
answer.
like, I saw one thing that said she's a pastor's daughter, and her dad said this in the sermon, how ashamed he is, and and then she had this retort back to him, and then I saw another one that said, well, she's a school teacher, or she's a teacher at like a preschool, and
She got
they
fired,
her,
yeah.
and so she was on this like podcast. I saw a clip of it. She's like, no, I work at a factory that makes springs,
Right.
like little spring. I mean,
Yeah.
she's like, I'm not a teacher. I've never been a teacher. There's, and of course, the way that my head goes now, my daughter's 26, and I just hurt for her parents.
Yeah.
Who have to be absolutely, she's trying to live it up and make a buck on it.
Oh yeah, and her face is everywhere.
I'm a capitalist. Hey, have at it, but you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't even looked up what her name is. I don't care. But now she's the hot thing. And there have always been people who became really famous for stupid stuff.
Yes.
But we've gotten to the point in this sort of post-Judeo-Christian ethos society where we're not supposed to judge.
Right.
And we're not supposed to bring shame. And we're not, because that's bullying.
Right.
And whatever word. Should we bring back some judgment and shame on things?
Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, where's the line between that and being prudish and being legalistic and being that? I mean, where is that somewhere? Because societal boundaries are what enforce good behavior more than governmental rules. I don't want government to come in and run our lives, but should you think twice before you say something gross and stupid and humiliating, somewhere, anywhere.
Absolutely. I think shame is a useful tool, and it needs to come back as a societal thing.
Right, he writes like, I wonder if Hunter's looking her up right now.
Oh no,
probably. Yeah.
Well, I got to give props to UQ Drama on Rumble, who says that the new quarterback for the Battlehawks.
Hawk Tua.
Well, for Hunter Biden, I mean, it's like, how do you say Hawk Tua in Russian?
Oh my gosh. No, but seriously though, I think shame was a useful tool. Shame and judgment. It was a useful tool to maintain the guardrails of society so we don't veer off into craziness. And we're talking about the type of craziness that actually causes societal harm. Right now, the only reason this is even a thing that they were talking about this and it's selling merch and all that is because ages ago we got rid of our sexual mores, so that we just the discussions around it, the way we approach male-female relationships in public, the way we talk about all these things, the guardrails around those sort of interactions were dropped because they are too judgy and shame is a bad thing. And now here we are talking about this garbage.
Okay, so here's what I was asking a little bit earlier. Scobro says, you're the angry old man shaking his fist at the crowd. That girl is going to make a ton of cash. Good for her. Lighten up, guys. Well, that's why I was asked the question. I'm like, am I becoming the crotchety old man? I mean, I can tell you that
that's somebody's daughter, dude.
My daughter, if she's 26 and walks into my house with a Hawk Tua sweatshirt, I'm like, out.
Well, and the other aspect of it is the money is not going to pay for the destruction of her life and the continued bad influences on society. When did money become the be all and end all? Like, I understand that we're capitalists. I understand.
Yeah,
I understand that we, the idea of, using whatever resources you have in order to sell to willing participants and whatever you want to do. Yeah, I get that. But the thing is, when did it become cool and okay and not a big deal to sell your freaking soul? That's kind of where we are, isn't it now?
We had an entire fiddling contest over that one time.
But I mean, and you mentioned early on in this that this is the post Judeo-Christian ethic in America. One of the major Judeo-Christian ethics was, what does it benefit a man to gain the whole world, basically acquire wealth, acquire power, all these other things, but lose his soul? And it's a rhetorical question. You don't get more than you've given.
Okay, so I don't think there should be any laws, any government,
no,
nothing like that at all.
We're not talking about government intervention.
And if
here.
I'm 25 years old right now, I'm probably like, ooh, I'd love to meet the Hawk Tua girl, because that was where my brain was when I was 25 years old.
Sure.
Now I'm 52 years old, a very young and spry 52. I'm just saying.
just saying.
But I'm just saying. But I kind of look at it in a much bigger picture, because a drunken, stupid statement now is, I'm famous, I'm going to run in front of every camera. I am half surprised that I have not received an email from her PR agent saying, hey, interview the Hawk Tua girl. She's the hottest thing going right now, which, by the way, I would say no to.
No, yeah.
Even though it would probably drive up listenership for that particular show. We've already got a pretty big listenership.
Yeah.
So I think it's when I see this, I'm like, I'm rolling my eyes. Maybe I do need to lighten up. I don't know. But I just look at it and I'm like, this is really stupid. And it's not even so much that it reflects badly on her. She reflects badly on her. But the fact that she's getting cheers literally from thousands of people at a concert, because I saw her like pulled up on a stage at a country music concert.
Yeah.
And all she did was run up and scream Hawk Tua, and everybody's like, yay! And I'm like, dude, guys, you're cheering this too. What?
Yeah.
You want to own the Hawk Tua thing, really?
Gosh.
Just saying. All right, 314-912-1019.
I'm going to be the crotchety old man. That's
all right,
fine.
you take over. I'm passing the baton.
Yeah, I'll own it. Get off my lawn.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Well, the preacher and the teacher, no, they are gossip. They are the talk of the town. And the gossip is to fly, and they ain't lying when the sun goes falling down.
Roofing, you can count on Connor. Connor Roofing is now a 2-time winner of the National Best of the Best Award for customer satisfaction for roofing, storm damage restoration, siding, gutters, both residential and commercial. Please visit ConnorRoofing.com for an estimate. And remember, you can count on Connor.
Hey, it's Columbo for Capriotti's Sandwich Shop. Capriotti's is famous for setting themselves apart due to their dedication to superior quality and ingredients like slow-roasted, hand-pulled whole turkey and American Wagyu straight from Snake River Farms. That dedication to superior quality is evident from the very first bite into a Capriotti sandwich. Visit Capriotti's Sandwich Shop 7 days a week at the corner of Manchester and McKnight in Rock Hill and get more info, including how to impress at your next event with their great catering at capriottis.com.
Jewels on Hampton and St. Louis Hills is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches on site. Jewels on Hampton is a premier jeweler featuring Alvanza's jewel art designs with an exquisite selection of diamonds, semi-precious stone jewelry, and vintage watches. Their expert design team can restyle your jewelry to today's contemporary style. They also do jewelry and watch repair. Need extra cash? Jewels on Hampton is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches. Bring in your collectibles and clocks and sports memorabilia and figurines too. Jewels on Hampton, 4506 Hampton, just 3 blocks south of Chippewa, and jewelsonhampton.com. Call them at 314-752-5000, 314-752-5000, and jewelsonhampton.com. Jewels on Hampton.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com.
Hi, it's Randy Tobler here. Pour a big cup of coffee and catch my show every Saturday morning from 6 to 9. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the Morning here on News Talk STL.
Got quite a conversation going on Rumble at least.
Oh, okay.
On the whole Hawk Tua thing.
Yeah. Well, it is a controversial idea, and we threw down the gauntlet, I think, the last segment.
All right, at 8:05, let's talk presidential immunity. Mike O'Neill from Landmark Legal Foundation read through the ruling, the dissent. What does this cover? What does it not? Yes, we talk about what does it mean to Donald Trump, but what does it mean for the presidency from here on out? It is 7:52. Got Gabe here, got Stell here. I'm Mike. Heading into the holiday weekend. Holiday. I mean, for most people, the holiday really starts after work on Wednesday.
Oh gosh, yeah.
You know.
Well, so for a lot of people, it's during work on Wednesday.
That's true too. That's true too.
Let's be real.
So I'm kind of looking for stuff that I'm like, you know what? We don't have to do politics nonstop.
Yeah.
This week. But we're covering the big. I mean, I'm not getting away from this presidential.
Oh well, God. I mean, well, it's a huge,
massive ruling on this. But you actually found something a little bit ago, and it had to do with things that kind of just used to be
normal
that aren't normal anymore. Now we're not talking about judging people, just how things have changed.
Although that used to be normal too.
Yeah. So here's the question though: is do you miss some of these things?
You passed the old man baton to me, so I'm gonna roll the clock back a little bit. And people were in this BuzzFeed article, they were discussing things that they've told to younger adults.
Yeah.
And they describe them as normal, and they just it's hard for them to wrap their head around. Number one, and this is always a fun one. When the internet first came out, you couldn't talk on the phone and be online at the same time.
You had to install a second phone line if you wanted that dedicated for the internet.
Yes.
And God forbid you're trying to do something on the internet and somebody went to make a phone call in the other room.
Oh, yes. Actually, a later point in this list here was the idea that if you were going to download something, you had to basically go around the house and threaten everybody with bodily harm if they picked up the phone during the period that it told you that it was going to take the download.
Hi, it's Randy Tobler here.
So,
Pour a big
so it was going to be like what, an hour and a half or something like that to download the picture that you wanted, the high res picture.
Well, what if the house is on fire and I have to call 911?
Go next door.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually a thing. Let's say going to get gas was more of an experience. Now, I'm not sure. You remember when you would pull up to a gas station and the attendant The gas station attendant would come out. They'd ask you how much you want and of what grade. And as the tank is filling up, they're wiping your windshield down.
Can I check your oil
They're
for
checking
you?
your oil. They're doing all kinds of stuff. And you would pay through the car window with cash. And then you would never get out of your car during that whole process.
I have seen that, but that was not normal by the time I could remember.
Yeah,
things when I was a kid. Stell, how about you?
The thing I remember is back in the dorms, back in the day, when you only had one phone on the floor, and everybody had to figure out, okay, if you wanted to call a friend or you wanted to call your parents or you had calls coming in, you only had one phone on the entire floor. So you had 40 or 50 kids trying to handle just one phone. That was kind of bizarre back then.
Come on, man, get off the phone. Get off the phone.
Yeah, exactly. That was one of the later points as well, is the idea of multiple people having the same phone number, because there's one phone per household, for most people, and so everybody in the house has the same number.
Okay, so here's one other aspect of that. Now, when I was in high school in Camp Point, Illinois, just outside Quincy, so which is kind of very like on the fringe of the News Talk STL signal, but it was such a small town that we only had to dial the last 4 numbers of our phone number to connect in town. And so with the 3 or 4 little towns that were in our school district, we just had to remember the last 4 digits.
So party line stuff,
pretty close to it, and so we didn't have to dial 7 digits for it, just those last 4. That's how small things were back then.
It's amazing. Back in the day, we used to make our Christmas or birthday lists from looking at store catalogs.
Heck, yes.
I actually miss the Sears wish book.
Sears and JCPenney.
And JCPenney.
Yep.
They also we'd get those giant things. Oh man, it was so fun.
Which section did you go to first?
Oh, immediately the toy section.
Okay, see, I went to the sports
section.
Yep.
No kidding.
Yep,
no
I
kidding,
went to
Mike.
the sports section.
Oh, look at this glove. It's so awesome.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. I want to go back to this. This one, and this wasn't that long ago. You could literally walk through from the airport, from the entrance to the airport, all the way to the boarding gate. There was no security checks.
Yep.
And you could meet your friends coming off the flight
right off the plane.
That's
I
right.
remember meeting somebody off the thing.
That was a better
amazing.
time, and it made flying like more special. I mean, I flew this past weekend. I can't stand the process now.
Yeah, it's terrible. This one I don't miss, but on some level it feels nostalgic. If you were in unfamiliar territory and you needed directions, you'd stop at a gas station.
That's right, you would.
You'd either ask the attendant, okay, where's this? Or you'd buy a map.
That's right. We would get, my dad loved his Rand McNally atlases, and we would get him a nice one every couple of years for his present. Boy, he loved his maps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
You want a good laugh? Kathy still uses maps when we drive.
No way.
It's on your phone, Kathy. It will talk to you.
Oh, man. Some people miss this. The drinking age was 18.
I remember that.
When it's important to you,
I have it on all day at work.
It's on News Talk STL.
Allegedly, they're going to be unbiased tonight.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon is the man I'm looking at right now.
But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon.
News, analysis, opinion.
Oh, he finally beat Medicare.
He's right, he did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare.
Number 1 for live and local conservative talk.
My retribution is going to be a success.
1019 and 94.1. News Talk STL.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents, and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. The city was booming. Unfortunately, St. Louis City streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline. St. Louis City Republicans believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. Learn more at stlouisrepublicans.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican Pat Curtis, Farber Treasurer.
Hit the links in style this season with News Talk STL's brand new golf polo and hat collection. Available exclusively at Sugar Creek Golf Course, located off Highway 30 in High Ridge. Our lightweight, moisture-wicking polos feature the News Talk STL logo, keeping you looking sharp and feeling comfortable all 18 holes. And don't forget the matching News Talk STL hats to keep the sun out of your eyes while you line up that winning putt. Get your News Talk STL gear today at Sugar Creek Golf Course off Highway 30 in High Ridge. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Speaking of Levi Hart at Thrive, Give STL Day, I get a call from the office because someone had called in. I must have Googled this, found just our office phone, and had given $10,000. Wow. Between being alive with you guys, walking out to my car. So News Talk STL listeners, you're the reason why the babies have the loudest voice in the city. Radio does work.
Radio
works. It does. Here we are.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL. KLDY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. Any president is immune from prosecution for official actions taken while in office. The 6-3 ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court upholds what has been an understanding, a tradition in place since the birth of the Republic. However, it's bringing an outcry from President Biden and the Democrats. They raise the specter of assassinations ordered by presidents. While President Trump and the Republicans say that is absurd, they hail the ruling as a win for the Constitution. In light of the high court decision, Trump attorneys are appealing to the judge who presided over Mr. Trump's New York criminal case.
In a letter to Judge Juan Merchan, Trump's lawyer cited the new U.S. Supreme Court's ruling on presidential immunity and asked the judge to delay Trump's sentencing while he weighs the high court's decision and how it could influence the New York case. The Supreme Court has ruled that former presidents have broad immunity from prosecution. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Israeli military forces ordering Palestinians in the Gaza city of Khan Yunis to get moving again.
The order suggests the city will be the latest target of Israel's raids into parts of Gaza it had previously invaded in the war, as it pursues regrouping Hamas militants. Much of Khan Yunis was destroyed in a long assault earlier this year, but large numbers of Palestinians have moved back to escape another Israeli offensive in Gaza's southernmost city, Rafah. I'm Charles Tiladesma.
Hungarian Prime Minister Orban is in Kiev for talks with Ukrainian President Zelensky. It is his first visit to Ukraine since Russia's invasion was launched back in February of 2022. Orban considered the Russian President Putin's closest ally within the European Union. Wall Street ahead of this morning's opening bell. The Dow futures down 126 points and NASDAQ futures are off 113. More on these stories at townhall.com.
What does it take for organizations to triumph? It takes the trust of people like you. And that's why an estimated 14 million givers look for the ECFA seal. Over 2,700 leading ministries across the U.S. display ECFA seal, demonstrating that they live up to biblical standards of financial accountability, responsible governance, and trust. So next time you donate, look for the ECFA seal, a widely recognized symbol of trust. Visit ecfa.org/trust to learn more.
Progressive knows when you own a boat, life on land is a tough sell.
Come on down to Land, where you can do things like clean your gutters, pay tolls, and even get the wrong thing you ordered. We got it all. Potholes, people talking at the movies, and don't forget about flat tires when it's raining. It's Land.
Life on a boat is way more relaxing, so customize your coverage with Progressive, America's #1 boat insurer. And relax, knowing you got the coverage you need. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
From the Michael's Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Back to hot today, a high of 93 this afternoon under mostly sunny skies. Some strong thunderstorms will break out to our northwest this evening and tonight, but they should be weakening as they move towards St. Louis overnight and early tomorrow. A warm night down to 77 for the low, but a new batch of potentially severe storms pops in the afternoon tomorrow near or just south of St. Louis. Steamy high tomorrow at 94. A couple of rounds of rain and storms, unfortunately likely on the 4th of July as well. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
My friend, death is certain. Are you prepared? Larry Connors here. I don't want to scare you, but your funeral plans are an important conversation you need to have with your spouse, family, other loved ones. My friend Benjamin Schaefer at Senior Memorial can help find you an affordable final expense life insurance policy. Regardless of your health condition, you could qualify up to $30,000 of lifetime coverage. Life insurance plans with Senior Memorial Also offer living benefits towards hearing and diabetic supplies, access to a 24-hour teledoc service, discounts on urns, caskets, tombstones. Call my friend Benjamin at Senior Memorial and discover your legacy at 314-866-8886 or visit memorialplans.com. Memorialplans.com. Senior Memorial Heritage Protection.
Mike Ferguson.
Are you pretending to be crazy?
Gabe Pfeiffer.
There's something serious I have to tell you about the future.
Get up, St. Louis.
Will you guys knock it off?
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up, this is your cousin.
All right, is Donald Trump above the law? That's what the Supreme Court said yesterday, right?
Big question.
Or does the ruling have less to do with Donald Trump and more to do with the presidency itself? Okay, I guess it depends on whether you are Team Trump, Team Biden, RD, but the question should be, what is the right application of the Constitution, regardless of whether you're Team R or Team D or Team something else? It is 8:05 right now. I'm Mike Ferguson. Got Stell here, got Gabe here. By the way, Gabe, did you look up any of the reaction from some of the local leftists to the ruling? Give me just one sample of pick somebody at random.
Oh my
anybody. So just the Supreme Court rules. There is such a thing as presidential immunity from criminal prosecutions. Now, did they say for everything? No, but we'll get into that more in a minute.
Well, Claire McCaskill has a wonderful timeline full of choice quotes, a lot of reposts actually from other people like Stephen King and contributors to MSNBC and stuff. But at least one of hers is, "I never want to hear another word about textualism, precedent, or historical basis from the Roberts Court ever. Such rank hypocrisy."
Okay, so she's arguing then that they have invented a precedent out of thin air.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
am I reading that or I'm hearing that right?
Yeah, that's what she's saying. You know.
All right. We're joined now by Mike O'Neill from the Landmark Legal Foundation. So I guess that's a good foundational question to start with, Mike, when we get into the scope of what's covered and what's not. And obviously with the individual case and the Jack Smith prosecution, that's a separate thing. So like Claire McCaskill and some others, former senator, are saying basically this was invented out of thin air. There's no constitutional basis for it. There's no textual basis for that. Is there any credence to that argument whatsoever from what you can tell?
I have no idea what she's talking about, and I have no idea what I mean. And that's probably one of the more mild statements. I mean, that's a legalistic. She's trying to make some sort of legalistic argument there, and then of course you guys intimated about all the other hysteria you're hearing. That the one that everybody's talking about, that the president could, and Justice Sotomayor actually I think mentions it in her dissent, that the president could order SEAL Team 6 to perform an assassination of a political rival. I mean, look, the hysteria needs to be set aside. I would fair bet that the overwhelming majority of people who are making these ridiculous hyperbolic statements have not read the opinion and don't understand how it's going to operate going forward. The court was as clear as a bell. The president is not above the law, but they did look. This is a case of first impression, and this is for posterity, as you stated right at the beginning, Mike. That this is a case that's not just necessarily about Donald Trump, not about Joe Biden, but about the power of the presidency and the separation of powers and our constitutional structure. There's bigger issues at play than the particular prosecution. Now, that is an important issue, don't get me wrong, and that's the impetus of all of this. However, this is a case that deals with whether the president is subject to criminal prosecution for his actions while serving as president. And the court, laid out an analysis of that, and they established three buckets, if you will, three separate factors, considerations you want to take. First, they start out and they say, look, I'm just going to break it down for you. First, they say, yes, there are cases where the president enjoys absolute immunity. Those are cases where he's exercising his core Article 2 powers. The court's very clear. It says if he's exercising his pardon power, if he's exercising his power to remove officials, if he's exercising his supervisory authority over Department of Executive Branch officials, then yes, he does enjoy absolute immunity. However, that is a very narrow category of actions, and both sides, even at oral arguments, agreed on that. Again, then you go into the second bucket, if you will, official acts, and in that context, there is not absolute immunity. There is presumptive immunity that's subject to rebuttal from prosecutors. That if it goes outside the ambient of his official acts, then the president can be subject to prosecution. Now, we're talking about let's throw out that hypothetical. The president takes a bribe, and they actually mentioned that in a footnote that how a prosecution for the president accepting a bribe would work. If the president orders an assassination of a political rival, well, those are actions that are outside the ambient of his executive authority. He doesn't have any constitutional authority to assassinate his political rivals. He doesn't have any constitutional authority to accept bribes. Well, then, so clearly that's a presumption that immunity will not attach to it. So let's just set aside all of this. Then, of course, the court ended with said that no immunity for unofficial conduct. If the president commits an assault in the White House, then that's not in the conduct of his official duties as president. Then, of course, he could be subject to prosecution after leaving office for those sorts of acts. So it's just a lot of hysteria from the left, nothing you wouldn't expect, a lot of demonization of the U.S. Supreme Court. But again, I do think that this is a decision for posterity that will stand the test of time.
Okay, but what if he commits assault by punching a terrorist while he's in office?
Right. It's so funny. I was thinking about this before, and nobody really talks about. Think about 9/11. If you guys remember, we're all old enough to understand 9/11, and remember those days. The president has to act with alacrity and has to have vigor and has to have the freedom to act in the defense of the United States in unforeseen circumstances. And again, illustrative in 9/11. What did President Bush do in 9/11? He actually said they shut down all of the airlines that are flying, all the airplanes that were flying over the United States in the morning of 9/11. And then he had to give the really, really tough order. It didn't happen, but he had to say, remember, there were a couple planes that were still flying around. He had to authorize fighter jets to shoot down civilian airplanes because we didn't know where those planes were going to go. The potential existed for them to crash into the Capitol, for example, or into a city or another building. So what if the president had to in his President Bush in those terrible hours of 9/11 had to think, oh wow, I gotta be worried about whether I'm going to be subject to criminal prosecution for this? No, look, the president has to have the freedom to act as president of the United States. And you can't have this overriding burden on him necessarily in these emergent situations where he's going to have to be concerned with whether he's going to be prosecuted for criminal conduct for when he's functioning as president of the United States.
So Gabe here, Mike, and I largely agree with the ruling, at least the portion of the ruling that I was able to read. Now, for people like me, though, who again largely agree, but are worried that there might be some areas where we're worried about accountability, making sure that the executive can be held accountable for really bad things that they do. Where does the ruling kind of leave room for those sorts of situations?
Well, a couple things. First of all, the initial answer I want to give you on accountability is there's the political accountability, and that's built right into the structure of the Constitution, and that's the impeachment process.
Right.
So if the president, there is the first political accountability, and again, that's what you want to have. I think what you're specifically alluding to is the context of criminal accountability if he does really bad things, quote unquote, really bad things. Well, the court has laid out a test for this and laid out an analysis, and it's incumbent upon really the lower courts to hash out. The court, Chief Justice Roberts refers to this in his opinion. Look, this is the first time through this, and it came up to our shop, i.e. the U.S. Supreme Court, in a very accelerated basis. So there was no analysis that was ever performed, a deep dive into the facts of this. And now keep in mind, what court does that? Courts of first impression in the United States judicial system are the district courts. They are best equipped to analyze the facts and apply them to the law and conduct evidentiary hearings and do all of that. And that's what you're going to see actually going forward. In D.C. with the remand, there's going to be hearings, factual hearings that the judge is going to undertake to determine whether these certain actions, i.e. the conversations that President Trump had with Vice President Pence, whether those are official or unofficial, the court remanded that. The communications with state officials, whether those are unofficial, whether those fall in the ambient of presidential executive authority or outside that. In other words, was the president functioning as the president? So when you talk about accountability, this is going to be hashed out specifically vis-a-vis Trump in the lower courts, the courts that should be doing this in the first place, not the United States Supreme Court. So there is the opinion builds in that process for holding again, and it has to look at this through a very specific lens. This is the president of the United States who is the embodiment of the executive branch. He's the only individual the only person who is, the Supreme Court has 9 justices, the judicial system, the Supreme Court, 9 justices, Congress, hundreds of members. The president is the embodiment of the executive branch. So you have to be very careful when you're going to decide whether you're going to initiate criminal prosecution for him for his official acts. So it's really within the framework of the opinion, and time will kind of hash this out as it's litigated in the lower courts.
Hi, Mike. Stal Ponticus here. 2-part question for you. First of all, what if the president's dog bites someone?
Hypothetically
speaking.
Negligence, that's tortious conduct. Yeah, exactly. Right. And I think I think they've gone through a couple of those dogs. They can't find the right dog. You never hear really what's happened to him. I don't know if he's been consigned to the compound out in Delaware, so he's away from the poor Secret Service agents who have to try corralling him.
So part 2 of my question, not related really. Is it fair to say that this ruling is going to push the current cases like DC and Mar-a-Lago back until after November 5th?
Yeah. Yes. I think. Well, regarding the case in Florida, I think it's probably going. There's no trial date set, and there's a lot of issues that need to be resolved before the trial date can set. So I think that one's certainly going to be past the election, and this certainly will, because again, there's a remand here from the Supreme Court to the district court to hash out whether these issues are official versus unofficial. There's going to be immunity hearings, and then there's presumably on those hearings, on those findings from the judge, there's going to be an interlocutory appeal, so it's going to have to go back up. So almost 100% certain that both of these prosecutions are going to be pushed back past the November election. And of course, what that means is if Donald Trump is elected president, you can't prosecute a sitting president, and also he has the power to pardon himself and he also has the power to dissolve the office of the special counsel. So yes, for all intents and purposes, these two trials or these 2 prosecutions have been pushed back post November election.
Okay, does this change the presidency moving forward, or is this something that solidifies what we've always understood from a legal perspective, not us mortal non-lawyer people?
No, that's a fantastic question. I mean, it's interesting because, and I've thought this before, this is kind of the weaponization that the left is engaged in, you guys. We've always had this kind of silent law in the United States, and we've been able to exist within this confines. Presidents have been able to operate, not really sure. Like, okay, it's kind of, in my perspective, they've kind of operated with this, okay, well, I might be subject to criminal prosecution. I might not be. I don't think I am, but I might be. So it's kind of hanging out there. Now you have some definity towards this, some certainty towards this. So I think it's kind of, I don't think it's necessarily a good thing that this opinion had to come down. I don't think seeking to prosecute your political opponents in the criminally prosecute your political opponents is a good thing. And it's interesting, the left, caterwauls and screams for this opinion, but you have to be careful what you ask for. If they sought to spend the past 3 years talking about Joe Biden and what he's been doing for the country, rather than devoting all their energies to prosecuting Donald Trump, maybe they'd be doing better in the political arena. Maybe the story wouldn't be 24/7, 365 about Donald Trump. So, the left has to be careful what they ask for. Similarly, I've said this half jokingly, but it's kind of applicable, is Joe Biden also doesn't have to worry about being criminally prosecuted for some of the things he's done as president. I mean, now that they've opened the door to this, waging lawfare against your political opponents, you have to be careful of the consequences of that. And now Joe Biden is going to say, well, I broke the law when I didn't enforce the border, when any allegations you want to make, well, there's going to be some sort of immunity attached to that. So, I mean, the interesting point is Joe Biden now has immunity. As I said before, this is a decision for posterity. This is a decision that's going to have to stand the test of time. And as you said, Mike, at the beginning of our conversation, this is something beyond Donald Trump and beyond Joe Biden. This is important for our Constitution, for our separation of powers.
All right, Michael Neal, Landmark Legal Foundation, as always, appreciate you being on, giving us the update. You're my go-to guy on this. The website, people want to learn more about what you're doing or your opinions on these things or your assessment. How do they get in touch?
Yeah, landmarklegal.org. And what's interesting on our website right now is we kind of have this interesting analysis of Justice Thomas's concurrence in this. And nobody's talking about that, but that's a really interesting point. And I encourage anybody listening to check out our website, landmarklegal.org, and see our analysis of Justice Thomas's concurrence.
All right. We'll talk to you again soon, Mike. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, I've got a couple other responses to that ruling that we're going to include in the news dump here in just about 2.5 minutes, right around 8:22 on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL.
Don't try to make me stop. Inspiration. You have the soul sewn up. It is no more.
Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Nation. Making cold my heart to fight your war. Stop right now.
Looking for the ultimate golfing experience in St. Louis? Look no further than Sugar Creek Golf Course. As the most popular golf course in the region, Sugar Creek offers 18 holes of challenging play, designed for all skill levels on rolling country hills with stunning views. But it's not just about the game, it's about the experience. Friendly staff, new Yamaha golf carts, freshly paved cart paths, and renovated clubhouse will make your day on the course a pleasure. Sugar Creek Golf Course, the perfect place to bring your team or friends together. Book your tee time today at sugarcreekgolfcourse.com. That's sugarcreekgolfcourse.com.
Old man winter in the rearview mirror. Warmer weather here. Time to call Hanson's Tree Service. 636-379-1830. 24/7 at hansonstree.com. This is the perfect time to spruce up and beautify your landscape beds. When you purchase organic mulch in bulk from Hanson's, you save on price, time, and incredibly convenient. Tons of commercial and residential tree care services as well. Grinding and land clearing, plant health care, and more. 636-379-1830. hansonstree.com. hansonstree.com.
What's the best way to get rid of a timeshare that you don't want? Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline. We're a group of attorneys that help customers legally exit their timeshares. It's an easy process. We guarantee results or you pay nothing. Exit your timeshare today. Call now.
800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. That's 800-524-1641.
St. Louis's place to talk.
Freedom of speech is one of the anchors of our society.
News Talk STL.
Those crazy nights I do remember in my youth.
Bill O'Reilly here. Check out the O'Reilly Update this afternoon at 3:45. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Now I have to tell what
you have to say it now.
I just mentioned a couple nights ago, right before I went to New York. I was playing a ball game over in Sauget, and the mosquitoes were awful.
Mhm.
I mean, they were terrible. I mean, they're always bad.
Yeah, those Illinois mosquitoes are awful.
Oh, there's standing water everywhere over there. And we're well, and it's not even so much that it's the Illinois
I know,
mosquitoes.
yeah.
But it's the Sauget mosquitoes, so I don't know where they've been. But I showed Gabe my ankle, which is just covered in mosquito bites.
Yeah.
And
Dozens.
we're all like, we can feel that we're getting swarmed by these things.
All the guys at the ballpark.
Yeah. And I'm sure they probably their ankles look like mine.
Yeah.
And
you guys have lost like a quart.
Oh, but that's the thing. It's like I mentioned, I said, these are Sauget mosquitoes. I don't know where they've been.
Right.
A lot of times you get bit by you get bit by a mosquito. It's like, am I going to get malaria in other parts of the world?
Right.
In Sauget, I'm like, do I have to worry about hepatitis?
It's a
Have they
possibility.
been over, I mean, I'm just saying one of the mosquitoes had glitter on it, if you know what I mean. It was named Cinnamon with an S. Oh, God.
The Sauget mosquitoes, man.
All right, let's get some reaction to what's happening with this immunity ruling, and also why is gas more expensive? That's all in the morning news dump.
The morning news dump.
Are you joking? Is this a joke?
Listen, folks. The morning news dump.
All right, here we go. Supreme Court has ruled the former presidents are entitled to some immunity from prosecution. Note that I said some immunity from prosecution.
Okay, so we don't have a king now.
We have what?
So we don't have a king now.
Well, that depends on who you ask. But, if you're talking to, I don't know, like some of the far leftists, they're
Megan
like
Green.
Megan Green and some of those. Yeah, here's the actual report from Town Hall.
In a historic 6-3 ruling, justices said former presidents have absolute immunity for official acts, but no immunity for unofficial acts. And the High Court is sending Donald Trump's immunity case back to a lower court to figure out how it applies to the former president. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote that the president is not above the law, but Congress may not criminalize the president's conduct in carrying out constitutional responsibilities. The immediate outcome means an extended delay in the Trump matter and the unlikelihood that a trial could be held before the November presidential election. Greg Clugston, Washington.
So I guess they're going to have to rely on convicted felon as the catchphrase for the next few months. They're not going to get, something else for that, at least before the election. And of course, President Biden went and did a White House sort of, I would say a press conference, but he didn't take any questions from the press. He just sort of shuffled in, made his statements for a couple of minutes.
So
and
a wine
left.
session.
Yes, basically. Here's part of what he had to say.
Here's what she said. She said, in every use of official power, the president is now a king above the law. With fear for our democracy, I dissent. End of quote. So should the American people dissent. I dissent.
And he was quoting the dissent that was written by Justice Sonia Sotomayor.
Yeah. That one read like a middle school girl who had some inklings of a law degree, just kind of sounding off on something she didn't quite understand. Honestly.
And on Fox says the story with Martha McCallum, Senator John Kennedy explaining why he agrees with the rule.
The Constitution and common sense demonstrate that the Justice Department can't prosecute a president, not criminally, for an official act. It can for a personal act.
Okay, so it's important to have the distinction here. And by the way, this conversation with Mike O'Neill we just had from Landmark Legal, very informative.
Absolutely.
That's going to be posted within the next 2 or 3 hours in our podcast. Subscribe, get that. If you see people who are getting it wrong or saying, I don't understand this, send it to them.
Yeah.
Just you can click right on our podcast platform and just literally just text or email it right to them.
Yeah, he mentioned the 3 buckets. Pay attention to the 3 buckets.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing. The Supreme Court did not remove or did not dismiss any of the criminal indictments against Donald Trump.
Right.
None of them.
Right.
But they did send it to the Supreme Court, did send it back to the court that's hearing the criminal cases and said, these are the parameters, AKA the buckets.
Right.
This is how you will decide what is prosecutable and what is not.
Yeah. Because the thing is, it was an unprecedented move to try and prosecute criminally a former president at all. So obviously, since they had never done that before, they needed some parameters, and that's what the Supreme Court provided.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, if a president now or in the future commits a crime, they should be prosecuted.
Yes.
Can we all agree on that?
I think so. I think we can agree that, yes.
But we need to define what is a crime and versus what is in the scope. And, just culturally and politically, we've never been at the point where we had to worry about that, but now we do from here on out.
Yeah. It's Chicago politics in the White House. It's basically what we're talking about.
Yes, indeed.
Yep.
I warned people back in 2007 and nobody listened to me, but that's okay.
Well, now we are.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Yep. Okay, how about this? If you need to fill up the tank, do it on the Missouri side of the News Talk STL region. I think most people know that anyway.
Yeah.
See, I've got to fill up my tank. I was playing ball in O'Fallon, Illinois last night, and I'm like, how many miles do I have left? I'm calculating in my head. Okay, this much back to my house.
Can I make it?
This much to work, because I did not want to buy the gas in Illinois. As of yesterday, as of Monday, Illinois has the second highest gas tax in the nation with 47 cents per gallon.
So crazy.
47 cents. That is just the state gas tax. That increase that happened this week takes the tax up 2 cents per gallon. That's all part of J.B. Pritzker's so-called Rebuild Illinois Tax and Revenue Plan. But get this, at 47 cents a gallon, let's compare that to where it was before 2019, before J.B. Pritzker and the Democrats in the Illinois legislature started jacking up all the gas taxes. Before 2019, Illinois' gas tax was 19 cents per gallon. 19.
Oh my gosh.
It's 47 now. California has the highest gas tax. That probably doesn't surprise anybody. It is 60 cents per gallon. By the way, Missouri's gas tax also went up on Monday. Remember the big tax hike on gasoline that happened a few years ago? It's going up, a few cents every year up through next year. So Missouri's gas tax went up 2 cents a gallon, 3 cents per gallon, from 24.5 cents to 27.5 cents per gallon. So still 20 cents less per gallon than the Illinois side.
Speaking of that tax, correct me if I'm wrong here, but if you go back a few years, didn't the state set something up where if you record all the taxes that you paid and write them all down and send it all in to us, we'll give you a refund.
And we need receipts for getting
Yes,
audited,
yes,
by the way.
No, you can actually still do that.
Mhm.
You can do that. If you look up Missouri gas tax refund, which is I looked up Missouri gas tax and that popped up and I got curious and I looked up refund this morning. It's still there. There's a form that you fill out, but you have to send in your receipts and you have to calculate up. It's a lot of work.
Sure is.
For probably for most people going to be $100 or $200 a year on something like that. And that's assuming that the little gas tax receipt that you get doesn't fade.
Yeah, I was gonna say
there as
you got to
well.
be really careful because that's thermal reactive ink that they use on those things, and so over time they just go away.
Right.
So,
So I don't know how often you can send those things in, but that you can actually still do that. And that was one of the arguments for the gas tax increase. Hey, if you don't want to pay it, just do all this work and send it. But nobody's going to do it.
no.
Yeah.
Well, except for my wife, she keeps all receipts.
Good for her.
Yeah.
All right.
She's like that. By the way, that gas tax you said it was how much per gallon
For which state?
Illinois.
Illinois is now 47 cents per gallon for the state gas tax.
In 1974, it was 53 cents a gallon for gas.
Yeah, for the whole price.
For the price of gas was 53 cents.
Yeah, what year?
74.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, because my kids don't believe me when I tell them that I remember gas being less than $1 a gallon.
Yep.
And I remember when it hit $1, we were like, what kind of world are we living in right now?
That was in the late 80s. It finally hit $1. And
So it was
when I was in high school.
Never looked
53 for regular and 57 for Ethel.
That's right. Leaded and unleaded. You
Leaded
remember
and
this?
unleaded.
Now, here's what's funny. When I was in high school and I lived in Camp Point, Illinois in the 80s, in the late 80s, mid and late 80s. And when we would drive into Quincy, because there was nothing to do in Camp Point, Illinois, I would be the one who would usually drive and everybody would give me like $2 to pay for gas. So if I had 3 friends in the car and I brought my own $2 for $8, I would fill up 3/4 of a tank and I would come out way ahead. And I thought I was just like gangsta scamming everybody because everybody gave me $2 for gas. Well, that won't even buy 1 gallon of gas at this point. All right, a couple other things happening. The end is near for the Chesterfield Mall. We now have an official closing date when all business ceases at the Chesterfield Mall, and that is August 31st. The demolition is going to begin on October 15th. So basically the last couple days of whatever, there's a few businesses left at the Chesterfield Mall, not much, but a couple. So I suspect there's actually probably going to be a lot of people reminiscing and going to the Chesterfield Mall the last couple of days.
There'll be more people there than ever.
There'll be more people there than there are actually items for sale at the mall. A lot of people taking pictures. A lot of selfies are going to happen. And then the mall's going to be replaced with a $2 billion mixed-use development. It's going to include retail space, office space, restaurants and bars, and apartments over the course of whatever 200 or 300 square acres that are on that lot.
That sounds like the way a lot of these developments are going now. People want to live in quote unquote walkable cities and things like that, but they don't want the problems that come with city living. So they want to be in the burbs, but they want city style commerce essentially. So they're creating these apartment complexes / entertainment districts / shopping districts.
Let's talk about that around 8:36.
Okay.
That just something popped in my head because, I was just in New York, a couple days ago, and I see some of the elements of that where it's done poorly.
Yes.
And there's one area here in the St. Louis area where it's done really well. And so now what you're saying in what's going to go in Chesterfield, it's going to take 5 years to build it, but I think that is what people are going for. I get the appeal. Now, there's also, we've already seen a preemptive complaint about this on social media
Here we
as
go.
well. And I think they have a point.
Oh,
on there
okay.
as well. All right. Finally, the Cardinals start a series on the road tonight. They're in Pittsburgh to take on the Pirates. First pitch is at 5:40 our time. Kyle Gibson going to get the start on the mound for the Redbirds. Okay, so the Cardinals did not play yesterday, but the Brewers lost. That means the Cardinals gained half a game. They gained half a game on the Brewers. Cardinals are now 6 games out of first place in the division. They are in second place all by their lonesome.
Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson in the morning. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Back to hot today. A high of 93 this afternoon under mostly sunny skies. Some strong thunderstorms will break out to our northwest this evening and tonight, but they should be weakening as they move towards St. Louis overnight and early tomorrow. A warm night down to 77 for the low. But a new batch of potentially severe storms pops in the afternoon tomorrow near or just south of St. Louis. Steamy high tomorrow at 94. A couple of rounds of rain and storms, unfortunately likely on the 4th of July as well. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
News commentary.
The Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity has Democrats freaking out. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
If you had $1 million in 2009, today it would be worth less than $700,000. Thank you, big government. Hedge against runaway inflation with gold from Birch Gold Group. Birch Gold will help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. I trust Birch Gold, and you can too.
Text the word SHELTER to the number 989898 and get a free, no-obligation info kit on gold. Text SHELTER to 989898 today.
Supreme Court ruled on presidential immunity, sort of. The ruling really sent it back to the lower courts, but the high court did rule that a president does have immunity for official acts while in office. What qualifies as an official act is still up in the air to be sorted, but this ruling is a small victory for Trump and against the weaponized political machine going after him. But as expected, the left is mad about it, not because it gets Donald Trump off the hook for other bogus cases brought and weaponized against him, because it doesn't, but because the decision does undermine some of the shady lawfare Jack Smith and others are trying to pull. This ruling stalls their efforts almost certainly until after the election, and at least of now, that election ain't looking too good for their current guy. This has been a weeks-long winning streak for former President Donald Trump, so I would say cry me a river, Democrats. Better luck next time. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show Tommy Lahren is Fearless at Outkick.com.
Mike Ferguson here. Retirement should be a time you can relax. No more stress from work, but there's one thing you can't forget about when retiring. That's your money. Do you have enough saved to fund your income for life and keep up with inflation? How will you claim your Social Security benefits? And what about long-term care? The ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel is here to help answer all of these questions. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9, right here on News Talk STL. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com. Or call 636-695-2650, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Hi, it's Dr. Randy Tobler, along with daughter Sammy Tobler-Gregory, a team member here at our family-owned Body of Health Direct Primary Care Practice. Sammy, what are patients telling you about their experience at Body of Health?
I can't tell you how many patients I've had come to me and tell me they just so appreciate getting to sit across the table with their doctor and chat about whatever's going on with their healthcare needs for however long they need.
Want to learn more about healthcare the way it ought to be? Schedule a discovery call at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
News, analysis, opinion.
It's time for Merrick Garland to stop stonewalling and release the Biden tapes.
This is 101.9 and 94.1.
Justice has not been served. The entire family benefited from the Biden influence peddling scheme.
News Talk STL.
Hey everyone, this is State Senator Nick Schroer. I am the host of Stand and Fight every Sunday night. Right now, let's hear more of Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL.
Now that she's back in the atmosphere with drops of Jupiter in her head.
Train.
Drops of Jupiter.
They had 2 or 3 good songs.
Oh, yeah. They had quite a few. You know, they had trouble getting off the ground because the label was not thrilled with the lead vocalist.
It's pretty plain.
And
but still relatable.
Somehow they worked things out so that, I don't know if they sent him to the minor leagues and had him work on his vocals. But I think the guy sounds fine. I don't know what the issue was that they had with him, but it took him a little while to get going.
Yeah, I mean, there were some of those 90s bands, like there was Train and there was the Wallflowers and some of that was like kind of the style, just kind of that plain, you know, not professionally trained sound that you had in the 80s and stuff. Because I mean, the 80s, man, you generally you needed to sing. I mean, there's always the quirky voices out there, but you had to be trained. 90s, it's like, okay, let's sound a little more bohemian, that kind of stuff. So,
and then when you look back at grunge music, and Train was not a grunge band, but
no,
you look at Nirvana and Pearl Jam and some of the others, not top of the line vocals.
No, Eddie Vedder has very unique vocals. And I bought their first album was called 10. I had that cassette. I had the cassette. And I liked really liked Pearl Jam. I don't really listen to him now because Eddie Vedder's an idiot. I mean, it's like, dude, sing.
Yes.
Stop talking.
Yes.
Because when you talk, you sound like a jerk. And I just can't, I don't know.
It's like Roger Waters and Pink Floyd.
Oh man, yeah. Another excuse not to listen to Pink Floyd. I already had plenty. I don't like Pink Floyd. I just don't. All right, this Chesterfield Mall coming down starting in October. They've been talking about this for years out there. So this mixed use development's going to go in there. And so we're talking, I mean, I knew about the retail space. I knew about the bars and restaurants. We knew about the apartments. County Councilman Mark Harder also said there's going to be some office space in there as well. Obviously, there's, I'm sure, going to be a parking garage or two. So we've actually had a couple people on the Rumble chat say, for instance, somebody said, you think traffic's bad now, wait till that goes in.
Oh,
and is it going to get worse? Which, there will probably be more congestion in there.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to have some parking garages. But think about what the mall was like when it was really busy. We know the Chesterfield Mall is kind of empty,
right?
Where they're begging anybody and everybody to go there. But in its heyday, there was a lot of traffic out there.
Yeah.
The other thing is, and it was right, he just wrote it. He said those developments are for a time when you don't have a car. It's a quiet war on private property, aka a 15-minute city. Okay, that's interesting. So let me compare notes. I was in New York City over the weekend for just a real short in and out. I was in and out like a day.
Right.
And I spent most of my time in Brooklyn, where my friends live.
Right.
And it was a brownstone neighborhood. I sent you, did I send you a picture of the actual neighborhood? It was funny because I was walking by, we were walking down to the little place we had breakfast on Sunday. And I'm like, oh, this is as New York as it gets. And I took a picture of the brown. Yeah, it was very picturesque. And it was funny because when I snapped the picture, our friend, Alex, she kind of laughed and she goes, it's funny you took a picture of that street. And I said, well, that just seems like quintessential New York City. And she goes, it is. That's the street they block off all the time to film movies and TV shows. And she goes, last week they blocked it off because they filmed like a rap video there. And she goes, that's constantly blocked off for the very reason that I took the picture. I didn't know that. But I told Rachel, I said, now, first of all, I'd never want to live in New York City. But if you made me pick between LA and New York, I'm picking New York.
Sure.
Based on what I saw. I couldn't care less if I never go back to LA. But with New York, there definitely is an appeal of everything being within walking distance. It's irritating, that you everything's packed and it's hard to drive around and everything. But it's basically the walking mixed use thing that, yes, is organically grown up over 200 years there, but it's done wrong.
Yes. Yeah. Especially, I guess, because it's geared towards packing as many people in to a small square footage as possible. That's why it's the concrete jungle is so tall. One of the things that's disorienting for people who have like wide open spaces, like they're coming from areas in like Edmonton, Canada, or something like that.
Just saying.
If there's anybody,
who happens to be there, it can be disorienting just walking down one of those streets because the buildings are so tall, you can't see the sky.
Right.
So it feels like you are in a concrete jungle. You're enclosed. There's a canopy essentially.
Well, there's only one way to go once you're packed in side to side.
Yeah.
And front and back.
And that's
you
go
can only
straight
go
up.
And the skyline looks cool when you're driving in.
Yeah, from a distance.
But you get there and it's a whole different thing.
And it's also one of the ways you can tell a tourist is because their necks are craned. They're looking straight up at how tall the buildings are. It's like, get out of the way, you moron. I'm walking here.
Yeah. Which happened. I was taught you just walk out in front of the cars and put your hand up and keep going.
Yes.
And I'm like, we we would get run over because everybody's staring at their phones, you know, doing that. But there were parks everywhere, playgrounds everywhere, bodegas everywhere. I mean, so I actually get the appeal.
Sure.
I actually see it. But, you know, I would never, I'm just a Midwestern guy. I would never live there. I would never fit in there. You know, it was kind of funny. We drove by, we were picking something up for our friend, and I saw one American flag. And I'm like, look, somebody has an American flag in New York City. And Rachel's like, not everybody's left wing in New York City. I'm like, but that was the only one I saw.
Yeah.
Pretty darn close.
I saw about 1,000 pride flags.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I saw one American flag.
Out here in the Midwest, you're going to be assaulted by all of the all of the flags, and I love it.
So in New York, it's like, okay, it's organic. I get it.
It just kind of became that way.
It became what it is.
Yeah.
With all the parks being around this, that part's kind of cool, but it's done wrong with the whole mixed use, everything crammed in.
Yeah.
And you look at, like, for instance, in St. Charles here, you've got Newtown. And if you haven't been out to Newtown, it is a planned mixed development. The homes and the yards are small, but you've got a little bit of space, and it's kind of mixed use done on purpose.
Yes.
And Rachel's got some friends that we visited a couple times up there, and I've only been up there 2 or 3 times, but that's pretty cool. That's done right.
Yes.
A little bit more. They've got parks built in. They've got shops built in. They've got a post office there. They've got, you know, a concert hall, an ice cream thing. And obviously you're right there by St. Charles. So it's not like things are too far away, but it's golf cart living. You basically have whatever you need there that you can go to. So that makes more sense. When you look at the planned mixed use, like what's going in Chesterfield, and Mark Harder was right. This is the way the future is going to be.
Yeah.
Is that because I think there is going to be more of an appeal to, if I have everything nearby, then I don't need to travel 20 minutes to go to the grocery store or whatever.
Well, I think there are 2 groups that I think those types of city planning appeals to the most. It's the young people who they want to live in the city because of the accessibility, because there's always something to do, because you can get there just by walking around, or things like that. But they don't want the problems that come with city living. You know, they actually recognize, this is actually a crap hole, but there's all so much to do.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, people like our daughters who like to be in the mix, they like to be in the middle of things.
Oh, Amber loves going to New York City.
And my daughter lives in Denver, and she likes to be in the middle of everything and be able to walk to stores and things like that. But she doesn't like to have to step over homeless people to do it.
Right.
So this type of living, I think, would appeal to people who are looking for that sort of lifestyle. And then, of course, you got the retirees who, some of them can't drive anymore, honestly,
or don't want to.
Yeah. It's like, I don't want to have to drive 20 minutes to get to the store. I can jump in my golf cart and go 2 minutes down the road and get to the store.
So if you put all those aspects together, is that a 15-minute city that we hear about?
It's not the same as the globalist sort of 15-minute city. Like that's a different concept, and I think we don't want to get those things.
That's what
mixed
Righty's
up.
talking about.
Yeah, and I don't think we want to get those things mixed up. I think the mixed use developments that we're seeing out here, I think they recognize the problems with cities, and they're trying to do something different to appeal to people who do like the good aspects of cities. The 50-minute city stuff is basically just trying to cram it. It's New York times 20.
Right.
So it's all the bad things and the good things of a city, but worse. I guess this is
because it's the World Economic Forum.
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
it's you will own nothing and be happy.
Exactly.
Kind of thing,
It's Mumbai.
It's Mumbai.
You know,
Yeah, exactly.
Is what you've got there. And so, you know, I mean, I'm at the point where, like, the older I get, the more that my cabin out in the middle of nowhere appeals to me.
Yeah, because there are those of us who still like our
I'm
space.
like, I want my space.
I don't want to be around people.
And it was also amazing when you crunch that many people in, you artificially drive up the demand and you drive up the cost.
Yes.
And, you know, for instance, my friends told me what they're renting their brownstone for, and it is more than twice what Rachel and I pay every month for.
Oh,
it's actually close to 3 times what Rachel and I pay for.
Oh my gosh.
Almost, not quite
Makes
3
sense.
times. Over twice what we pay for our mortgage.
Makes sense.
And we sit on, what do you think we sit on? A third of an acre, half an acre, maybe.
Yeah.
Or we're probably a half an acre, backyard, front yard, patio, porch, gazebo,
trees and grass.
You know, we've got all of that in our house.
Luxury items in New York.
Yeah. And a much bigger space, but that's Midwest versus New York. But, you know, again, I'm like, you know, Rachel and I are now empty nesters.
Mhm.
We've got the big house to ourselves, which
Right.
we're enjoying. We're renovating and all of that. But I'm walking around and I told her, I said, I would never want to live here,
Mhm.
but I get it.
This is nice.
I see it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Absolutely.
A lot of people don't even own cars there.
Mhm.
You know, between the subway and, you know, delivery and everything. And
Also, it would be super expensive to own a car there.
yeah, yeah.
The parking would kill you.
That's another expense she's got.
That's another mortgage.
Yeah, because you can't really, nobody has driveways or garages there.
No, you have to
And-
park on the street.
Yeah.
And need a permit to do that.
And you don't have that many spaces.
Mhm.
And so everybody was double parked and delivering stuff. And it was just kind of chaotic, but they had adjusted to the chaos. That's the normal chaos. I just don't want to live in chaos.
Having come from sort of that area, you know, even in the quote unquote suburbs where I grew up, you still kind of felt the pressure of so many people around and how tough it is just to navigate with a vehicle and things like that. And just it never appealed to me. My dream was a suburban house with a yard and a fence and a dog running across my half acre of land and stuff like that.
Right.
So I'm still fine with where I'm at. I'm not running to any planned community, but I like you, Mike. I get it. I understand the planned community
appeal.
stuff.
I really do. Now, the people governing that city, I would never want to live under, where they, you know, you don't get a First Amendment, you get a Second Amendment, you don't get any of that.
Oh, in the city, yeah, that's the whole thing.
I mean, I would not want to live under that at all.
A planned community in Chesterfield, though, or wherever, you're probably doing all right.
Maybe, yeah, Chesterfield, you can do a lot better than Chesterfield than you will in, St. Louis City. That's for sure. Yep. Well, it's the reason everybody's trying to get out of the city as well. All right, 314-912-1019. Got some thoughts on this? 1019-941 News Talk STL.
Since the return of a stay on the moon, she listens like spring and she talks like June.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com.
Tell me, did you sail across the sun? Did you make it to the Milky Way to see the lights all fading? And that heaven is overrated. Tell me, did you fall for a shooting star? One without a permanent scar, and then you missed me while you were looking for yourself out there.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Liberal mega donors are always looking for new rhinos to do their bidding. And with Adam Schnelting, they found their new star. Adam Schnelting has already backed their radical plan to defund our police. And he skipped countless important conservative votes. Skipped a vote to protect kids from sexually explicit materials in school. And skipped a vote to protect churches from junk lawsuits. It's no wonder Adam Schnelting is bankrolled by Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and Joe Biden's top funders. Bill Cristofanelli is the only leader we can trust to protect our conservative priorities. When radicals tried to defund the police, Bill Cristofanelli passed record funding from Missouri's law enforcement. When Joe Biden left our southern border wide open, conservative Bill Cristofanelli banned sanctuary cities and voted to send Missouri National Guard troops to secure the border. Vote Bill Cristofanelli, the proven conservative, for state senate.
Gladius PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising, paid for by Gladius PAC, and is not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Tim Jones here with Dr. Pat Fader of Comprehensive Chiropractic. Doc, I hear you all have a new treatment program for everyone's chronic knee pain.
Tim, that's right. We are helping patients with chronic knee pain by addressing the root cause of their condition.
And what makes your program so unique?
Well, Tim, many programs focus on just one component of the problem, the structural component. Our program focuses on the metabolic and neurological component to complete the picture and improve our patients' outcomes. We get to the root cause of what is driving inflammation in a person's body and address it directly.
For your chronic knee pain and more, visit cchiropractic.com. All information, make an appointment at cchiropractic.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
I have Dr. James Scholes from the Show Me Institute on the effects of a 4-day school week. And at 5:20, Dr. Randy Tobler on Biden's cognitive decline.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Hi, this is Mark McCloskey. Check out my show, Mark McCloskey on Fire, Sunday afternoon at 5 here on News Talk STL. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Now, I will say that I got the experience. I don't think I said this the other day. Did I say this yesterday? About...
Oh, no. The things that you... oh, wait. I think you did.
Did I mention, like, I got the real New York experience?
Yeah, the things
yesterday?
that make you an official New Yorker. Yeah, I think you did.
I did mention that, right?
But
Did I
yeah,
still?
but say it again.
I think so.
Say it again.
Well, I was on the subway.
Oh, I don't know if you said it on the air.
Yeah, I know I told you. If I did, I apologize. I don't remember whether we talked about it off the air or on the air. But I'm with my friend, and we're going to pick up something and run some errands, and that's why I was there to help him out through a tough time. And all of a sudden, we're on the subway going wherever in Brooklyn, and this guy starts yelling and screaming. I mean, yelling and screaming,
top of his lungs.
Shouting and all sorts of just nothing made sense. And I look up, and he's just not even yelling at anybody.
Right.
He's mad.
He's yelling at everybody and nobody at the same time.
And so if I did say the story yesterday, I'm sorry. And it was funny because I looked around and nobody's bothered by this.
No.
It's like, they're like, whatever.
Still in your phone.
They're on their phones. They're doing their thing. And I'm like telling my friend Alex, I'm like, hey, stay behind me. I got this. She's like, it's fine. And I'm like, what do you mean it's fine? We would be calling the cops and the SWAT team.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It is what it is. Yep.
You know,
between that and your authentic New York bagel, I think that made you at least partially a New Yorker.
Yeah,
full New York experience.
at least for the day.
At least for the day.
But it was kind of the one thing that was kind of cool is you do have all the parks everywhere.
Yeah.
Because and I was asking her about this because I mean these are old parks around. She goes, well, yeah, you don't have recreation stuff. I mean, I'm sure that there are sports clubs and extracurricular stuff, but not the way we have them here.
No.
So it's, families want to go hang out. They don't have a backyard. They don't have a grill.
Mm-hmm.
They if you're lucky and pay extra, you might have a porch.
Yeah.
But, there's smaller spaces. And so everybody goes to the park.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the major differences between city living and planned city living, like the 50-minute city living versus the planned communities that we have out here in the suburbs, where over in Newtown you can buy a house
right.
with a backyard and a garage
now,
for
not
your
a
car.
big one, not a big
no,
one.
no, they're not going to be huge. I mean, you're not sporting the half acre or whatever that we've got out in the true burbs.
Yeah,
but still. You do have green space of your own. You have a home that belongs to you. You have a place to put your car that you can still own. In these 50-minute cities, and even in the that are planned, or the existing cities, you own nothing. You rent everything. You can't own a car efficiently. And then of course all the green space is public.
Yeah, and so you're typically paying. I mean, basically that's one of the ways that people warn about. They're like, hey, if you're not allowed to own it and you must constantly lease it, you are controlled.
Yes, you own nothing.
So is there a way to do it right?
Yes. So they were trying to find the best of both worlds, I think, between suburbs and urban living. And that's where these planned communities came out. And for the most part, it looks like they're actually threading that needle.
They're trying
pretty
to,
well.
at least. They're coming close to it. Because again, the older I get, I mean, I totally understand it. All right, Vic Porcelli. Coming your way here at around 9:04, right here, 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. Hey, last chance if you're watching this on Facebook, Rumble, any of those, please hit the like or the heart button and do us a solid there if you would.
So perhaps my work here is done. Perhaps it's time that I moved on to a place where there's stuff to do. Stuff to do.
The latest news.
The only person on this stage is a convicted felon, is the man I'm looking at right now.
He could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office.
Extremely geriatric.
Our country was stronger and better off when Trump was president.
I would definitely vote for Biden.
Some questions, he didn't directly answer. He went and said what he wanted to say, but that's Trump. He's going to do what he wants to do.
We're doing as good as we can with what we have. Such a whiner. So bad as a president.
101.9 and 94.1.
St. Louis's #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Man, what a great party you're throwing here. This wasp nest is great.
Yeah, man, we got about 70 wasps in here.
Too bad we can't fit any more wasps in here. It looks like they're having fun outside, stinging all the kids. Oh, man, who just pulled up?
Oh, no, it's the pest control company again with those green wheels. They seem to kill every one of my parties.
This is Derek, the owner of All Solutions Pest Control.